Put it so it's just on the screen because I'm going to be using the slides.
That's fine.
Then I don't have to worry about that's what they're going to. I'm going to be flipping back and forth because I would screw that up.
I can do that.
So I'm going to use the slides for the whole thing.
Sure.
They can still hear me then.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Okay.
And then you don't have to worry about transitioning and going back and forth.
The roads in Hudson aren't even plowed yet. So Cindy's like, well, she's calling all her students. Like, they haven't got them plowed out yet, the roads. And it's still snowing there. Cool. All right. Good morning. Good morning. So, welcome, you diehard Minnesota fans. You guys just must love this weather to make it here in this today. Or if lived here long enough to know, whatever, just the goal. We only have one person not make it that was registered to be here, pre-registered to be here. So we're amazed that it was. So you live in this state, you know how you got to deal with it. Now, just so you understand, we'll just start right off with this. Living in this state, dealing with this weather, it does affect us because we have canceled a lot of our appointments for the day. And that's a normal thing to do when we're doing training. Like for instance, we have some lessons going on in Hudson, Wisconsin. We just had to cancel. They haven't even plowed the roads over in Hudson yet. So trucks over there, sitting there ready to go. Instructors sitting there, students sitting there, but they don't have the streets plowed. So we're not going to go out and drive in snow. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because all of you came in just the time now where we can get those big, heavy snowstorms in February and March. So there is a chance, a good chance, that every single one of you could have a lesson canceled or delayed or rescheduled or all of the above because of weather. Don't get mad at us if that happens. We can't control the weather. If you don't like it, there are states that don't have snow, and then I highly suggest you move to one of them. But if you plan on being in this state, learn how to deal with the snow and deal with the fact that you will get disappointed because of bad weather. You know, we canceled all of our backing range for the day. In fact, we're canceling our backing range for the whole week. Starting tomorrow, it's going to be negative 26. Trucks don't like to work when it's that cold. So that's just at the nighttime. But then in the mornings, we come in and the trucks don't want to start. So anyhow, welcome to Minnesota. So those of you that aren't from here, why did you move here? This place is cold. Some of us are spending our whole lives trying to get out of here. But anyhow, so you're all here to get CDLs. My name is Pat, by the way. I am the one that does all of the scheduling and does all the training. So I am the person that you're going to be dealing with for that mostly. The person that normally teaches class, Bill, he's not here today. So I am covering class for him today. So you're all here to get a CDL, correct? Now, we have a lesson plan that's very successful if you follow it. And we're going to be talking today quite a bit of how that lesson plan works and some of the people you're going to be interacting. I'm going to be showing you some pictures so you know who some of our instructors and staff are and what you've gotten yourself into. Just that simple. This is a big task to get this. It's not an easy prospect for some people, and it takes some time. It takes some energy. It takes some effort. So if it was easy, school wouldn't even exist. I mean, if you could just go buy a license, that'd be a different story, but you can't. You have to take training, learn how to do things the way the state wants it to take the test. Pull up our staff here. So, Bill Collins, he's the owner of the school. He opened the school, I don't know, 21 years ago, I think this March. So 21 years he's been in business. I think March is 21. I know sometime this year, I think it's March. He's been a driving instructor for a long, long time. He started doing driver's ed. Actually, he started training cops. He started teaching cops in the 70s how to safely maneuver their cars at high speeds and run people off the road. And then he got into high school driver's ed in the 70s, into the 80s. He had his own school doing that. So he's been doing it a long time. The man's been doing driver's education literally, so now 40, let's say, well, driving instructor since 79, licensed because he was doing the cops. He wasn't licensed when he do cops. He didn't have to be licensed. So 79, so he's been doing it for 40 years. He's been doing driver's education for 40 years, plus the cops before that. Me, I'm the one that does your stuff. I've been licensed by the Department of Public Safety since 1991. So, in fact, I was one of Bill's students for high school driver's ed in the early 80s. And then I started working for him when I graduated high school, and then when I turned 21, I became a driving instructor. So I've been doing driver's ed since 1991. So Bill and I have been doing it a long time. So he's got to change this 25 years, well, for over 25 years because it's 30 years now. I started working for Bill in 1988. So it's been forever. I feel really old. But I've been doing driver's ed since 91 with him. The two of us with our driver's education background, see, you're here to learn how to drive a truck, right? I can't take a truck driver that's got 40 years of truck driving experience and put them in a truck with you to teach you how to drive a truck. Just because somebody's good at being a truck driver doesn't make them good at training. So we have to find the right individuals to do the training, because a lot of schools nationwide, they hire truck drivers, retired truck drivers. Well, what happens when people are getting retired? They're set in their ways and they only want to do it one way, and they get kind of cranky. So if they're kind of cranky, they sometimes might want to yell at you. So truck drivers don't make good instructors. So we don't have people that are career 40-year truck drivers that are the instructors. That's why Bill and I are so successful at it when it comes to doing training. Now Josh, most of you met him up at the front counter. He's in charge of all the scheduling with all the different recruiters. Him and Matt take care of that. Got you, obviously, him and Matt got you registered this morning. If you have any computer questions, he can definitely help you with that. Melissa, who's not going to be here today, she's the officer, manager, and VA liaison. You're a VA student? Anybody else here a VA student? So if there's any VA questions, if you're being funded through the VA, you two that are funded through the VA, if you have any VA questions, most of us kind of know the answers, but she's the expert at it, and she knows where to go if you have any questions with that for sure. So she'll be able to help you with that. The rest of us know most of the answers, but when it comes to VA stuff, she's the final answer to any questions. Bob Christensen, we leave him on there because we like him. He's retired. He retired a little over a year ago. Bob was a truck driver for a bunch of years, and he retired after he was a union truck driver. He did that for 20-some years. Retired, got a pension, and he was only in his 40s at the time, so he decided to become a state examiner. He gave the road test for 25 years. Then he got a pension from the state of Minnesota, retired from that. Then he came and worked here for 5 years. And spend more time on the golf course now. So the guy did well for himself over the years, and now he's going to go and enjoy it on this golf course and be retired. We like him so much, we keep him on. He pops in from time to time to say hi. Tim Hoskin, he's been here a long time also. He was actually a former student. Tim came to us. He had been driving buses for MTC, and he wanted to upgrade to a Class A. And then his other job he had also, because he got laid off from that, he was just doing the buses part-time. But he became an instructor here. He's kind of the guy that's really good at getting you tuned up just before the road test. He's a no-nonsense kind of guy, kind of like the examiners are. See, these examiners aren't here to help you, and they're not here to be your friend. They're just point-blank, blunt. This is the way you do it. So a lot of people get rubbed the wrong way. So Tim's kind of the same way. He's not the person I'm going to put with you on your first lesson, because your first lesson, you need help. Your last lesson before the test, we need to get you ready for the road test, and he's kind of the guy to do that, because he's kind of got his, for many years, that's what he did, is he would do the last lesson the day of or the day before the test to help prepare you for the examiner. So a lot of people have came in and... Good morning.
Good morning.
Come on in, find a seat. You haven't missed much. Glad you made it, because even with the weather, that's awesome. So, again, Tim's kind of a no-nonsense guy, and he's the guy that's going to one of the guys that'll help you get ready when it gets closer to the test time. But again, he's not the first lesson we're going to put you with, because we have different people that are better with that. Mark, he has been a lot of different jobs over his life. He was a driving instructor back when I was a driving instructor. After that, he became a examiner for the state of Minnesota. So he was an examiner, state examiner, given the road test for many years. And then after that, he decided to become a commercial vehicle inspector. So he was the guy at the weigh station pulling the trucks around and giving them tickets and putting them out of service. So he's very knowledgeable about trucks, and he's very knowledgeable about the test, considering he gave the test for many, many years. So Mark's another one that's good. He's good with helping with the pre-trip, obviously, because he knows how to inspect trucks. He teaches a class actually part-time, monthly. All trucks have to be inspected annually. He teaches the class to the inspectors so they can be licensed to inspect the trucks. So he's got a lot of knowledge of that. Today he's out plowing the parking lots. He's enjoying that, sitting in the warm truck with the plow blade out. So he's enjoying that. Bubba, he's on a medical right now. He needs a kidney. Can't remember what blood type he is. We should put that on there. Anybody wants to donate a kidney, I can't remember which type he is. So he works for the state of Minnesota. He used to be an examiner also, and he's a different capacity with the state of Minnesota. But he's taking time off now because between work and his regular job and dialysis until he get a kidney, he's a little tied up. So Bob was off for a while. But another former examiner. So that's 3 former examiners we've had working here. See who we've had here as instructors? Examiners. People that were examiners. Who better to help train you than the people that gave the test? Gary, another former examiner. Gary he brings a wealth of experience here. He worked for 30 years at UPS. He wasn't a truck driver though. He was he was a supervisor in charge of all the truck drivers out of Eagan before he was at a different station before he got to Eagan. So he was in charge of all the truck drivers, and he was the third-party examiner for UPS. So any new drivers that got hired at UPS, he gave them the state road test. So he did that for many, many years. When he retired from there, he went to Century College, the truck driving school Century College used to have, and he was an instructor there until they closed. The day they closed, or the day we heard they closed, one of our recruiters had recommended that we contact Gary, and we did, and we hired him immediately. Now, Gary is retired. Between his 30-year pension, his Social Security, he doesn't need to work, so he only works a couple days a week just because I think his wife kicks him out of the house. So he's here just a couple days a week. We wish he could have him full-time because he's great with the students. Sam, he's our youngest instructor. Next month he's going to be going off doing some other stuff, so you won't be seeing him as an instructor. He's really good at getting people started. He's got a lot of patience. He's young because he remembers what it was like when he was learning how to do things. He's really, really good at getting people started. He's got a lot of patience with that. And he works out of the Hudson office. He lives over in Hudson. Matt, he's up at the front counter. You met him. He's one of our newer support team members up front. Any questions you have when it comes to recruiters and stuff like that, Matt and Josh, who I showed earlier, they're the ones to talk to. Joe, he's off on a medical right now. He had to have back surgery, so he's going to be off until sometime in February. He was an owner-operator. He's also a volunteer fire department. That's why he had surgery, because he hurt his back in a fire call. So he's off for a while. Susan up front, she was up there this morning calling making phone calls this morning, canceling appointments because of the weather and the truck's not wanting to start. So Susan up front. Jason, you may have saw him over by the simulators this morning. He's usually the guy you go with the first time you drive, and he's also the person that helps you on the simulator. He's one of our newer instructors, but he has so much patience when it comes to new students. He's perfect when it comes to helping people get started on the simulators and then the first time driving. So generally, Jason is the person you drive with the first time when you go driving on the road. He's the person you're going to work with, as well, the first person you're with on the simulators. Cindy is our newest instructor, and she's over at Hudson. Her and Sam work out of the Hudson office mainly. They come here from time to time, but they mainly work out of Hudson. She worked in the medical field before she got into truck driving. She worked 2.5 years at the same company, doing long haul stuff. She's actually a former student from here. She is actually a great success when it comes to following the rules. We're going to be talking about pre-trip stuff tomorrow, but one of the things that gets brought up is you have to learn how to do a pre-trip inspection. The way you do it in the real world and the way you do it in the road test is two different things, but there are still some things you need to do when you're out doing the real world stuff that some experienced drivers don't do. Cindy is one of the ones that called her trainer out on that. So even in training, they're testing it. They're trying to get her to do things wrong, and she wouldn't do it wrong, and that's why she was so successful at that company. She impressed them, and she did well. Within her first 6 months there, she had more miles than any driver at the company. She followed the rules, did everything right, and she ended up with more miles. The guys and gals that sit there and whine and complain end up with less miles. She had a lot of miles. She made a lot of money driving truck. But her husband said, it's enough of the over-the-road stuff, find a local job. So we offered her a job. So that's our staff for the most part. Now, when it comes to training, any training questions you have, as far as how the training is going to work, Josh, Matt, and Susan are not instructors. So the folks at the front counter can tell you how the program's going to work. But they're, like when it gets to the questions about the trucks themselves and stuff like that, they have a little knowledge because they're working here, but they're not instructors. They are not mechanics. They work at the front counter. Now, Josh does have a CDL, so he's been through the pre-trip, but he's still not an instructor. So just keep that in mind. When it comes to doing stuff when it's related to the trucks, defer any answer to the instructors, either here in the class, whoever the instructors are in the class. They're going to have to say, all right, hold on, I got to go find something. So they're going to have to find somebody anyway. So they're not going to be able to answer your question anyway. So don't get cranky if they can't answer your questions right away, because they're not instructors. Keep that in mind. Sometimes people will go up to them and ask them questions, and then they get mad because they don't have the answers. So, well, you work here, you should know this. Well, no, they're not instructors. They don't all have CDLs. They don't drive trucks. So don't get too wound up if they don't give you the answer right away and they have to ask one of us. So, some of the things you're going to learn here. Tomorrow we're going to have a class about pre-trip inspection. Anybody here mechanic? Good. Tomorrow the person who's teaching class, Jason, he's going to ask you the same question. He's going to say the same thing. CDL or commercial truck mechanics, they're the worst when it comes to doing inspections because they've gone to a lot of school. They know how to do things. They don't know how to explain things. So we're going to be teaching you tomorrow in the class how to properly pass the pre-trip inspection. And a mechanic doesn't do as well as somebody that doesn't know anything. So don't panic, because we're going to be teaching you what to do. Part of what we need to do is teach you where all the components are. There's where the mechanics have to hand up on everybody, because they already know where the components are. But the problem the mechanics have is the next thing on the list: what to say. Well, mechanics know a lot of terms that the examiner doesn't know. They probably know too much, and that's part of the problem why mechanics have a hard time. So we're going to be teaching you where the components are and what to say. Now, if English is a second language, this can be done without any problem. We had a gentleman take his test last week, or 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry. 2 weeks ago he took his test, he speaks Russian. Barely spoke any English. We had a hard time communicating with him. He passed his first pre-trip. However, it took him probably 3 times longer than a person that spoke English for their first language. So English as a second language sometimes can be a challenge. So those of you that have English as a second language, don't get frustrated if the person sitting next to you gets done quicker than you. All we care about is that you pass the test, preferably the first time. We don't care how long it takes. If you're an impatient person, this is not the place for you. If you think you're going to get this done in 3 weeks and be out of here, it's possible, but it's not likely, especially if English is a second language. Just keep that in mind. People can do it, even if English is a second language, because you have different skill levels of English, even if English is a second language. But the test has to be done 100% in English. It's a federal law. The examiners will not give it in other languages, period. So if he doesn't understand you, You fail the test. Simple as that. There's nothing we can do about it. We'll work with people. It's not an issue, but as long as you keep patience on it. The problem we have is when we're going to do evaluation processes to get you through this program. And you have to pass an evaluation with one of our instructors that was an examiner. And when that instructor says, yes, this person can pass the pre-trip, then we worry about driving. So there's where people get frustrated. This is how we do the program. And I want you all to listen to this closely. We're going to go through this whole class today. I'm going to go over how this whole program is going to work. If tomorrow morning you wake up and you realize this isn't for you, you can quit tomorrow morning with full refund. So we're going to give you one full day. So tomorrow morning, if you come in and go, you know what, this wasn't for me, I don't want to be here, you get a full refund. Got that? After tomorrow, then the refund policy that's on the contract you sign, then that goes into play. The more you do, then the less is a refund you would get. But we're going to give you 24 hours to go through this whole class today. Think about it overnight, and tomorrow morning, if you get up and realize, I don't want to be a truck driver, you're more than welcome to quit with 100% full refund. So keep that in mind. Because this isn't easy, especially this time of year. It's cold. So it makes it a lot harder going out there to learn these things in the cold. But again, for those of you that speak English as a second language, sometimes it's a little harder. So be patient with that. Backing. Anybody here ever back a trailer before? So a couple of you have back trailers. So you folks, we may or may not have to do as much backing practice with. We don't know until we get you started. Everything's done by evaluations. The thing is no two people in this class are going to get through it and get the exact same amount of practice. All of the training we're going to schedule is based off of your skill. We're going to be setting up evaluations. And then what's going to happen is the instructor is going to recommend what we do for another schedule, and that's what we base the schedule off of. Yes?
I backed a 6,000-pound travel trailer using a cargo van, which has an enormous blind spot to the left and right. That was not as bad, but I had a curt hitch, so it was more rigid, and I don't know about fifth wheel. All of the semi-trucks.
But you were using yours and you still turn the wheel the same way. Every trailer is going to adapt a little differently to what you turn. It's just learning that. But you already have a little bit of a jump ahead because you're used to using the mirrors to back up and then and you're turning the wheel the same way. It's just how much you turn it. That's the part that's going to be different from truck to truck and trailer to trailer.
So a fifth wheel is more flexible than a
They
cargo.
can get a little squirrely.
Okay.
They'll take off a little quicker. But as long as you're watching the mirror, it's not a big deal. So for those of you that haven't backed before, you're all going to start your backing on the simulators. Those of you that have backed before, if you want to start on the simulators, you're more than welcome to. But those of you that have never backed before, you're going to go to the simulator. Once you can pass on the simulator, then we worry about going to the trucks. This is not a negotiation. If you do not want to use a computer-controlled simulator, quit right now. Because anybody that's doing manual transmission and doing Class A that's never backed for a trailer, you will start on simulators. You will not get in behind the wheel of a truck until you can pass on the simulator, period. Those of you that have experience will give you a one shot at showing us that you can back up a truck. And if you can, we can bypass the backing portion of the simulator. The manual transmission part, even if you have manual experience, you will go on the simulators before you go to the truck, and that's non-negotiable. There will be no shifting training in the trucks without using the simulators first, period. You got a truck in the shop right now. I'm getting a transmission work done. It's going to cost $6,000. Simulator broke a couple weeks ago. Cost $100. I'd rather people break the simulators than break the trucks. We don't. The only exception to that is those of you doing the manual transmission. If you want to give us an envelope with $10,000 cash in it, we'll let you drive any truck you want. And then after it gets out of the repair shop, whatever money's left from that envelope, you can have back. But if you don't mind paying for the repairs, putting a $10,000 deposit down, then you're more than welcome to learn how to drive on the truck. You probably won't get the money back because you will destroy the transmission and spend $10,000 really easy. That's why we bought the simulators. Simulators are very, very common in the industry nowadays. A lot of trucking companies use them.
Are they expensive to get? Or
What's that?
the simulator?
The simulators, those simulators cost between $80,000 and $100,000. They cost more than a truck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're not toys. People think they're toys. They call them toys, and that actually, when you call that simulator some stupid toy or video game, we get offended by it because it actually costs more than the trucks. They're just cheaper to maintain when they break because there's no moving parts. It's just computer sensors, electronics. But the simulators, anybody that follows the lesson plan can be very successful. We had a guy today, just passed this morning. I noticed at 7:30 this morning on the 10-speed simulator. Today is his 4th day on it. He'd never driven a 10-speed before, and he passed on the simulator. Now we can schedule him for a 10-speed truck. 4 days on the simulator. That would have taken him 2 weeks in the truck to learn. And he learned it 4 days on the simulator. But he had the patience to do it. It's repetitive, doing the same thing over and over and over again. That's how you learn something.
And just one more question.
Sure.
So how long do you train on the simulator?
Until you're good at it.
Okay.
I don't care if it's a week or a month. You're going to be on it until you're good at it.
Okay.
You have to be successful with the processes of the simulator before you move on. So
No, but I mean, like, do you
I
just
got-
show up and train? Or
Well, you need to schedule it. Here's my point. Like the guy he was on the pass on the 4th day. I think another guy spent on 2 weeks and never passed it.
Okay.
And he gave up and said, screw it, I'm going to get a job on that. Shifting isn't for everybody. And that's the thing. So those of you that want to take this in the manual transmission, anybody that's planning on doing it in a manual transmission, I guarantee you're going to be here at least 2 weeks longer than anybody's doing, minimum 2 weeks longer than anybody doing an automatic. Because an automatic, y'all drove an automatic to get here, for the most part. Anybody drive a manual transmission car to get here today? So you guys that drove manuals to get here today, you got one up on everybody else. You're driving manuals on a regular basis. But just because you drove a manual transmission to get here today, doesn't mean you know how to drive a manual transmission the way the examiner wants it to pass the test. They are very picky. You have to do it a very specific way. If you do not do it their way, you fail the test instantly, even if you do everything else perfectly. They're very picky when it comes to how you take the test. And that's part of what we're going to be teaching you here, what these examiners want. So those 3 of you that had experience and drove here today, we're going to have to teach you the way the examiner wants it done. So, and that's sometimes a problem with experienced drivers. Sometimes it's easier to take somebody that doesn't know how to drive a manual and train them because you don't have bad habits. I would have a heck of a time passing this test in a manual transmission, even though I've been driving them since I was 14 years old. And the biggest problem I would have is I do this. My hand doesn't come off the shifter. I have bad habits. I would probably fail the test today without practicing for a week with something. Put your hand in the steering wheel, put your hand in the steering wheel, put your hand in the steering wheel, put your hand off that shifter. I would probably fail today because of that reason. Because I got bad habits. So those 3 of you that drive manuals on a daily basis, you're not in your head yet. So the same things that happen to you. How about you? Same thing. You drive one hand, it's comfortable. I just got rid of it. I had an automatic that had a shifter on the console, and I still drove like that. It fits. It's ergonomically designed to fit. Well, you can't do that on the test. So you have to do it their way. If you don't do it their way, don't get mad at us if you fail. So when we're doing your training, we're going to be training you to do it the way they want it. So don't get mad at us if we tell you you're not ready yet. Yes, sir.
Are the examiners from the state or do they work here?
They're neither. We use Wisconsin for the road test. We take everybody to Wisconsin. We'll get a little bit more into that in a little bit. But it's a third-party examiner. It's a private company that we hire. We have to pay for the road test. They're not free.
Oh.
There's another reason why we don't want you failing the test. He charges us to take the test. I don't want you failing. I don't want you taking multiple tests. I want you passing the first time because I don't have to pay them once. Yes.
When we tested Wisconsin,
Mm-hmm.
passed in Wisconsin, do we get a Minnesota driver's
Correct.
license? Oh, we took, so it'll say Minnesota.
Yep, you're gonna have a Minnesota driver. You go to Wisconsin with your Minnesota license and Minnesota permit. There's a federal rule. I'll get to that in just a little bit on the slides that allows that to happen. Yes.
I'm from Wisconsin and I have a Wisconsin permit and everything, so when I had.
When you pass your test, he'll put it in the computer. You can actually have your license within 10 minutes of passing the test. Anybody that's in Minnesota, it takes a few days before Minnesota gets the records in the computer.
Okay.
Anybody else Wisconsin resident? License and permit? So both of you guys, when you pass your test, literally you walk across the street to Hudson's DMV and you can have your license that day on the spot. give it to you on the spot. Anybody that tests in Wisconsin with a Minnesota license and permit, it takes 3 days before Minnesota has it in the computer before they'll give you the license. That's just because Minnesota's really, really slow. Time badges. You're all given time badges today, right? Yep. Josh, I saw a few of you. Josh showed you how to punch in. Please punch in and punch out. Now, there's a few of you here that are here from different agencies. You're with VA and you're with VA? You're with VA funding you, post 9/11? Or chapter? Well, we have? Okay. So you're a little different, but you're still VA. So both of you, we get audited by the feds. They show up, and I need to make sure you punch in for your 20 hours a week, or if they audit us. They don't come after us in your guys' case, especially you, because are you post 9/11? If you don't punch in, don't do 20 hours a week, they audit us, pull your file, they will come after you for the money back. They won't come after us and make sure you punch in. Who here's with the YWCA? Show of hands. So you folks that are with the YWCA, we are sending attendance reports to Pierre every week. If you're not punching in, he knows it and he will be all over you. Please punch in. If you forget your time badge, for everybody, if you forget your time badge, let us know so we can punch you in. I don't want you to get a phone call from Pierre or Ray for you folks with the Y, because they'll be, yeah, they get cranky if you don't punch in. The rest of you, if you're paying for yourself, still punch in. It makes it easier for us to keep track of it when we make your certificate. If your workforce centers or anything like that, same thing, we send out those attendance reports to the workforce centers. So your voc rehab, you're more of a workforce center, I think that's funding you. So that's who's going to be asking about your attendance. Just make sure you punch in. Don't forget to punch in. Okay? Now, those of you that still, again, are paying for it for yourself, please make sure that you still punch in. Because at the end, if you don't have the amount of hours, the minimum amount of hours that the program set up, I can't give you a certificate saying, even if you were here, if you didn't punch in, I don't have proof. Don't expect me to remember 2 months from now that you were here tomorrow. I mean, punch in. It's important that we keep track of it. We have different stations around the building to punch in and out with the scanner. Just please make sure you punch in. Even if you're punched in the wrong place, as long as you're punched in, at least it shows that you were here. Now, there are different things that you're punching in for. Classroom. If you come into this building and you're just sitting here studying, punch in. If you're just hanging out in the lobby, punch in. Going out in the yard, there's a computer that one that's right over there by the front, next to the front counter by the door, and then the one over by that Josh was using to punch y'all in this morning. Those two there, they give you classroom, lobby, or if you're going out in the yard to do any practice around the trucks. That counts as coursework. If you're doing online tech study at home, you get credit for that. You don't have to punch in. We'll talk about the online stuff later. If you're on the simulators, there's a separate time clock over by the simulators, and the backing range has a separate time clock that you use when you're punching in so you know where you were. Especially those of you that are with the YWCA. Pierre and Ray want to know if you've been on the range, or if you've been in the simulator, if you've just been here. They want to know where you're at. So make sure you punch in the correct places. And then the last one's one-on-one. There's a separate time clock for that that's hidden that the instructors use to punch you in and out so we know when you're with the instructor. We need to make sure we keep track of everything you do when you're here. When you punch in, it's going to, like here it says ready for scan. When you punch in, it'll say in and your name. Watch it. Don't just listen for the beep, because it'll beep even if it doesn't read it. It always beeps when you scan it. Read the screen. So when you scan it, watch the screen. Make sure your name pops up and it says in. If there's a problem, let them know at the front counter. This is extremely important. There are some calendars out there on the board. Those are calendars for the backing, practice, range, and the simulators. Those are not instructor times. Those are just backing, practice, range, and simulator times. So that way when people come in and they forget their instructors or their schedules at home, they know what it is without having to come and ask us, what time's my appointment? No smoking in front of the building. Over to the north side of the building, or was it west side of the building? I can't remember the streets at any here. There's a metal tin shed over on the metal side of the building, and a big metal ashtray. That's where anybody that's a smoker, we ask you to go. Because in front of the building, you can see there's a set of railings there that wasn't, it's stained now, but at one time it was newer wood compared to the rest of it because there used to be a flower pot attached to that, a wooden flower planter. Somebody used as an ashtray on a Friday afternoon in the front of the building with some flames. You can see the black scorch marks right here. That whole set of railing burned up one afternoon. It was a Friday after we'd already gone home. Somebody saw it, called the fire department. They came and put it out, but this building could have been gone. There's a lot of wood in here. It wouldn't take much. So no smoking in front of the building, please. Over to the side under the metal shed. Now, dressed for weather every day. Tuesdays, Thursdays is another day that sometimes people go outside, but anytime you're going outside, dress for the weather. I'm wearing boots today. I normally wear tennis shoes when I'm inside the building and I keep my boots here, but today I didn't want to wear my tennis shoes to the car. I wore my boots. Friday, a guy showed up for practice and he was wearing tennis shoes, a light jacket. He didn't have zipped up and he didn't have gloves. I told him to go home. I wouldn't let him go out to our trucks. If you are not dressed properly for the weather, we are not going to let you go out. I do not need you freezing yourself, freezing toes off and fingers off because you can't dress for the weather. Tomorrow night, it's supposed to get 26 below, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Got to dress for weather. So there are times you're going to be working outside. When you take the road test, it's done outside. So you have to practice some of these things outside. Boots with good lugged soles. You can't wear shoes that are smooth-soled shoes. You will slip and fall climbing in and out of the trucks and the steps. You gotta wear good boots. Snow, rain, whatever. We do this training outside in the trucks. We can't bring the truck into the classroom other than stuff around. Other than this one here. But I can't bring running trucks in here for you to do training. So you have to go out to the truck and do the training. When we get in and out of trucks, it's extremely important that you do 3 points of contact. And come on. There we go.
About the proper way to enter and exit a tractor-trailer rig using what we call the 3 points of contact. Come on with me, let's go over to the truck. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations require provisions for drivers to be able to get in and get out of trucks safely. They require handholds, they require proper steps. So understand that the federal government's looking out for you, providing you with proper safety equipment to get in and get out of these trucks, but now you've got to follow the rules and get in and get out properly. Let me show you how. What we want to do as we enter our truck is we always want to maintain contact with 3 limbs. So we've got 4, 2 feet and 2 arms. So as you are entering the vehicle, notice I've got handholds here and here. I've got a handhold out here. And one up here on the inside of the door. So as I go into the truck, I grab my 2 handhelds here, put my feet up, I come up to the second step. Now I can grab again, and I'm in, secure, 3 points of contact, ready to do my job. Okay, we were showing you the proper way to get in and get out of a truck using one of our newer rigs. That's an 07 Freightliner Coronado. This is an older truck. This is a 1990 International. We still have the same handhelds. Now the steering wheel becomes one of my handhelds on this truck. This one's a little steeper climb to get in and get out. It's very important in a truck like this that you're using the proper 3 points of contact. Now the wrong way to get in the truck. First of all, don't just jump up in there without holding on properly. Like this, hoping you make it. You might fall out, and that's going to be the end of your work day. When it's time to get out of the truck, when you get out of the truck, it's the exact same process. Grab your handheld. My 3 points of contact. I got my handhelds. Down to the first step, down to the second step, change my handheld. 3 points of contact the entire way out. That's the correct way to get out of the truck. So again, getting out, I'm going to use my steering wheel as one of my points of contact. Okay? So here I'm safe and secure. I can make my steps down, always maintaining 3 points of contact on an older truck. It's the way to do it, gentlemen. When you come out of the truck, take your time. This is the wrong way to get out of a truck. That's the wrong thing to do, ladies and gentlemen. Now, an important ingredient to being able to get in and get out of these trucks properly is proper footwear, okay? First of all, no sandals, no tennis shoes, cowboy boots only if you put lugged soles on them. The typical cowboy boot has a smooth leather sole, not acceptable for driving a truck, okay? So if you want to wear your cowboy boots, get them soled up with some lugs. Now, what you want is a good lug pattern on the soles of your shoes or boots to get good traction. Here's an example of some shoes that are worn out. With a smooth sole like that? No, not acceptable, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Go out and spend the money to get some good footwear. Yeah, it's going to cost you a few bucks to get some good Red Wings or something from REI or something, but you want good footwear to give you good traction going in and out of these things so you don't slip and fall. Okay, one of the things that you want to consider working around trucks is be real aware of potential spills on the ground with oil and diesel fuel. You walk through this oil, now the soles of your shoes or boots are slippery. That's going to increase the likelihood of a slip or a fall. Whenever you go fuel a truck, be careful. If you spill any diesel on the ground, diesel fuel is very slippery. It's got a lot of oil content to it. That's a part of the lubrication qualities of diesel fuel necessary to run a diesel motor properly. So diesel on the ground is going to be real slippery. So be careful if you spill anything, and anytime you go into a truck stop, don't be surprised if the previous driver has spilled some diesel, making the ground very slippery. Again, you get that on your boot, and then when you go to climb in and out of your truck, you slip and fall and hurt yourself, and now you're out of work. So be real careful around fuel stops. Along with good footwear, your outerwear is important. Good gloves, okay? I've always got a couple pair of gloves, one regular work gloves. I got another pair of gloves just for fueling, so I don't get diesel fuel on my gloves and put them in my jacket. Keep your jacket buttoned up or zipped up. Don't let it go flying in the breeze and let it get caught on things. Wintertime up here in Minnesota, I've always got a hood with proper gear, proper footwear and outerwear. That's important to doing the job safely too. Okay, well, I hope you've gathered some important information with our little introduction to 3 points of contact today. This is important stuff. It may seem to be something that's trivial. It might seem to be not that important. But let me tell you something. More truck drivers get hurt on the job, falling off of a truck or trailer, than any other single type of injury. This is important. This is serious. It's important for you to be able to keep your jobs and stay at work and enjoy life here in the good old US of A. I'm Bill Collins with Interstate Truck Driving School. Check us out on the web at www.interstatedriving.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, but more important, a safe day.
So 3 points of contact is extremely, extremely, extremely important. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break. We take a break every hour, and then come on back in here. Now, one thing that I normally hit, we had a little late start. So one thing I also want to bring up is those of you that sign up today, the YWC students, you already took your drug screens at the Y, correct?
Yeah.
And they sent us the results. The rest of you, I'm going to touch more about how this works, but the federal rules require that you all take a drug test. You have to take a pre-employment drug test before you're allowed to drive a truck. So you 4 from the Y already have that done. Because the next part of what I'm going to talk about is how we're going to do the scheduling. But before any scheduling can happen, other than sitting in this classroom, you have to take and pass a drug screen. We do that here. If you want to talk to me by the end of the week about scheduling, you need to do that drug screen today. If you wait till tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, you will not get to talk to me about any scheduling of any kind until next week. Today is the only day that you can do a drug screen and still talk to me this week. Because we have FedEx, they come pick it up and it gets there right away. It's already scheduled to be picked up this afternoon, so it needs to be done today. If you don't do it today, you will not get a schedule at any time for next week. I'll talk more about how the scheduling works in a little bit, but just so on the breaks or at any time if you have to use the restroom, you just go up to the front counter. It's just a pee test. Nobody watches you. It's a private room. You go by yourself. We just give you a cup. You gotta fill it up, fill out some paperwork. It has to be done today if you want to get any scheduling. So this is extremely important. So get it done. Don't worry about if you have any prescriptions that you're on. That's no big deal. That's legal. It's no big deal. The drug screens need to get done today. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break and then come back in here. It's about 5 after now, so we'll come back at about quarter after.
Yeah. 5 stars. Where I first grade. Well, it's good thing we weren't doing the baseball listening. They weren't too bad actually. And actually, traffic was going pretty good. I think a lot of people just stayed home. You know, there was a lot of traffic.
Same.
You know, so. They weren't too slippery.
People that like 10
Oh yeah, so I called Kathy and let her know that they had to go back to school here since I was in California.
Right.
So I thought I'd get there till 5:30. Oh, you know, okay. All right. Good. Okay. Well, I'll probably move. Girls and such.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, let me know, just text me for sure, and I'll just call Kathy back and let her know that you're gonna put it on. Okay, if you're gonna stay with them, okay. Alright, yeah, because I left her a message.
Right.
So,
Be here, we all want to get
Right.
But that's so many people.
thank you.
So now,
Actually, there was snow. They're all done. It wasn't that much. You know, I was worried about the front driveway. They might walk.
you got, I said something that was not. And I was like, oh shit, she got everybody.
She always in this class like another 30 minutes to an hour. She keep talking.
Yeah.
Like even the instructor looking down.
Yeah, okay.
It's not even trying to ask any questions right now. Let's get through the intro.
Yeah. That's fine.
It's too early.
Too early.
Oh man.
So bad. I had to lean towards you, mom. Like, I hope she
Oh, for real? No. How long? Yeah. Too early for this shit now. Yeah.
I'm like, darn. Damn near. I said 3 minutes away, I was like, dang.
Maybe, okay. Those are just different days of weather pictures and space.
That vending machine will not let me order anything off an entire row. I'll take $1 bill. I'll take change. How you doing, Natalie? Yeah, imagine so. Just as I was turning over to going to sleep, the plow trucks were like in the neighborhood. When there's no other sound. I could always sleep through a plow truck in the city, but I can't sleep through it in the suburbs. Just not fair.
All right. People go out there asking Matt questions. It's like, get in here, get back to class, and ask me.
I got a question. So if this schedule right here, is that on us, or is that just a general schedule for?
Yep, I'll get to the schedules in a minute. Yep, we'll be going over all that stuff, no problem. Good question. We'll be getting there.
Just out of curiosity, do you think we'll go past 4:30 today?
No,
Since
definitely
we're
not.
no, okay. How does that kids at school?
Definitely won't be. It'll probably be sooner than that.
Okay.
Look at God.
So, scheduling. So as I mentioned, I'm the one that does all the scheduling. So I am the person, I am your only contact. Everybody else can just see the 3 people that you get.
You have a card, Pat?
We'll get to that.
I went down to the thing right Friday. I was going to go down to endorse it. It's not. So I had to wait to come and get it off of the house. Yeah, because it was I'm really.
So, as I mentioned, I am the one that's going to do the scheduling. Tomorrow, you're going to be handed a folder. That's the pre-trip book, and on the front page of that's going to have my contact information on it. So you don't have to have a card. It'll be written on the folder, the pre-trip folder that you'll be carrying with you every single day until you pass your test anyway. So I have my contact information. But when it comes to contacting me, do not call. All you will get is my voicemail, and returning voicemails are the last thing I do of the day. I don't do anything verbally over the phone with anybody. Nothing is done verbally.
Email.
I will do emails as a secondary. Primarily, I want you here and talk to me face to face. Problem with emails is I've already still got 20 emails over the weekend. I haven't even touched them yet. I won't get to those emails probably until tomorrow morning because I'm here all day when I'm teaching class. Emails is not a fast way to get a hold of me. It takes 24 to 48 hours of business days for you to return an email. Because if I'm teaching class and doing lessons, I can't do my emails. Would you want me doing a driving lesson with you in a truck playing with my phone? No, I want to focus on what you're doing as a student, not playing with my phone. Today I'm in here all day long, so I'm not going to get back on the emails right away. I do not do any scheduling of any kind. I wish the rest of you guys would get in here. Because then you say, nobody told me that. Missing a couple people.
I think he might be on the horn with the bulk rehab people.
Yeah. And I got one here in the front row too. So we got 2 people right there. He comes. So I said 20 minutes ago. I said, now we're coming back to class in 10 minutes. I'm not going to come looking for you. So if you miss things from this point forward, that's because you weren't here. Pay attention to the clock, guys. Just like appointments. I'm not going to chase people around. So there's a lot of important information. So try to be here. All right, in your purple folder, there is this piece of paper in there in the back cover. In the back, or one of the covers, the purple folder. The steps that need to be completed before any scheduling is done. So again, I only do stuff face-to-face. Secondary, I will do emails, but do not call me and leave me a voicemail and expect me to call you back to make a schedule. I do not do schedules over the phone, period. It's going to be in person, in writing, or via email and writing. It just takes longer. Part of the problem with emails is if you send me an email and you say, this is such and such, I need a schedule. Well, then I'm going to look up your records and I'm going to send you back an email. Okay, whoever you are, make sure you have your full name on there. Lots of times people say, hey, I need a schedule. What's your name? Full name needs to be in the email. Even if your email address is your name, just put your name in the email. Hi, this is John Doe. I need an email, or I need a schedule. Tell me what your availability is if you want to send an email. Otherwise, I'm going to send you back an email that says, when are you available? And when I ask you when you're available, I need to know a range. I'm available Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Don't say I'm available at Tuesday at 8 o'clock. What if Tuesday at 8 o'clock is full? I'm going to email you back and say Tuesday at 8 o'clock is full. I need a window of places to look for things. Those of you that are here limited amount of time because you have jobs, you have daycare issues with children, you have shared car issues with spouses, whatever it may be, we can work around anything. But unless you are available full time, this program is going to take a long time. The problem people have is when they hear what this program takes to get through it. But then they also hear that we're flexible. Yes, we're flexible. But if you're only available 3 days a week, 3 hours each day, you're not going to get this done in 3 or 4 weeks. It's going to take you 8 to 12 weeks. Unless you're available full time, you cannot get done fast. Understand that? Does that make sense? Don't expect to come here 2 days a week and get done in 2 weeks. It's not going to happen. I promise you that. And here's part of the reason why. For instance, backing up. You're learning how to back up, right? You gotta learn how to back up a trailer. If you don't practice that 5, 6 days a week, it takes forever to learn it. Because if you have a big gap in between practice, you forget things. And then it's like starting over the next time you come back. So if you're only available 2 days a week, this is gonna take a long time. Anybody here work at Amazon? None of you guys are Amazon employees? Because Amazon students I struggle with because they work sometimes they do it 4 days a week, so they're only available 3 days a week. So they come here 3 days a week, then they take 4 days off to go back to work, then they come back, it's almost like starting over every week, so it takes them longer to get through because they're having too big of a gap in between training. So gaps in between training is bad. We can work around that, but it will take you longer to get through. Simple as that. Now, we're not going to get mad at you because you have those gaps. But in turn, don't get mad at us if it takes longer for you to get through the program. Make sense? Before any scheduling can happen, You need to take and pass a DOT drug screen. I see a couple of you did that already this morning, but DOT drug screens need to happen before we can schedule any training with anything with the steering wheel. You also have to have an actual valid driver's license and a valid permit. Who still needs to get permits? Show of hands. Who does not have a permit? So only a couple of you still need to get your permits. So before we can schedule anything, you need to get your permit. We'll help you with that, but you need to get the permit. And you must complete the first 3 days of class. They don't have to be in order, like today you're here. Now if tomorrow you can't come, then you better come next Tuesday. There's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday lesson plan. All 3 of those days from 8 to 4:30 need to be completed. And then if you come today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, all 3 days in a row, then Thursday I will sit down. As long as you have a permit and as long as you have passed the drug screen. And that's why I need you to take it today, so that way Thursday we can talk about schedules. So don't come see me Thursday for a schedule if you don't have a permit and if you haven't taken the drug screen. Now, for those of you at the Y, you've taken the drug screen. There's one of you still need to get your permit. If you pass the test, you're just waiting for paperwork.
I did the general knowledge,
Okay.
those 3 tests. I wanted to get 2 endorsements.
Which ones?
The tanker and the.
Okay. So here's the deal. If you hold off on your training, forgetting that, you're going to actually have nothing to do after Wednesday other than studying some stuff.
Yeah.
If you don't go get that permit. I don't need tanker and I don't need any of the other endorsements in order for you to do the training of the trucks. Those can be added on at a later time after you get the license.
But see, if I get the permit and pay for it, if I want to get the 2 endorsements, I have to go take all the tests over again.
No, you don't. After you get the license, you would not have to do that.
No.
You would only have to do the endorsements. If you add endorsements onto an existing license, you don't have to retake those.
I'm talking about with the permit. Like,
Yeah.
if I paid for the permit
Yeah.
and then wanted to come back and add the endorsements to the permit, then I would have to take the other 3 tests over again.
Not for
Not
tanker.
endorsements.
Not for all, well, endorsements, passenger, school bus, yes, you
Yeah.
would. But not for a tanker or not for a hazard.
Oh,
How about double, triple?
No, because there's no road test involved to get doubles and triples. Those ones can be added on at any time.
okay.
Those can be added on, but passenger and school bus, you would have to retake the test, yes. Now,
Okay.
that doesn't mean somebody at the DMV or DBS would say that because half the time they don't know what they're talking about.
Okay.
But here's the thing, when it comes to endorsements for everybody here, I only need for anybody here doing Class B, you're all Class A, okay. I only need general knowledge, combination, air brakes, those 3 tests to get the permit. So I'll tell you right now, the state of Minnesota is very, very slow at doing things. Their computer system is completely screwed up. It takes forever for them to do anything. They spent millions and millions of our taxpayer dollars for this computer system that doesn't work. And when you go to renew your driver's license, it will take 12 plus weeks to get your plastic card in the mail when you do the CDL. So I need you to get that permit right away so you get in there, register as commercial. So if there's any problems, so those of you that don't have it, get it done right away. So we can get you going with things, so we can get you the license. You can add endorsements later. All of these companies will hire you without these endorsements as long as you add them on within a certain amount of time. Hazmat, if it's one of the endorsements you're looking at getting, don't worry about that. That adds another 30 days to everything because you have to do a federal FBI background check. Government shut down right now, ain't it? They're not doing the background checks. Now it's going to be open for 3 weeks. They're going to be backed up. Don't worry about hazmat right now. You will get hired without hazmat. Hazmat's a good thing for later on down the road, but with everything that's going on in our government, don't worry about that because you have to do an FBI background check. So they'll fingerprint you, send it in. The results aren't going to come back. Those results will hold you from getting a license. If you have that hazmat on your past test and you don't have the results back and you go to get the license, they won't issue the license till those results come back. If the government doesn't open up, you're not going to get it back.
Yeah, that, oops. I took my hazmat,
Mhm.
so I have the endorsement. And then Saturday, I went in and I did the background check with TSA. So I don't get my license until that background check
Yeah,
comes
because
back.
you have that on there. You will not, even if you pass the test, they're not going to mail you your license until that background check comes back. So that could be an issue. It's going to take you a few weeks here anyway, so by then maybe they'll have this crap figured out.
Oh, that'd be nice. Because I just went in there and.
Yeah, because that's a private company. That's not the TSA. That's a private company the government hired. So they're doing it. But they're just mailing it to the FBI. Or electronically scanning it to the FBI. I don't know that there's somebody at the FBI doing it. Yes, sir.
Alright, so I got my take endorsement, but I haven't did the next step, so with this being said, I should probably work on the next step now, so.
You gotta get the permit, yeah. So I don't know if you've turned it into an actual permit
Yeah,
yet.
I already.
Well, then you're okay. So what is, I don't know what the next step you're talking about.
Like, what would TSA do in addition?
You don't need that for taker. You need that
For
for
hazmat,
hazmat.
that's what I'm talking about, for hazmat.
You passed the hazmat test?
Yeah, I got all my endorsements. So I'm working it now.
Yeah, you better get it done. Because I don't know how long it's gonna take. I could be wrong and they could get it done, but
The sooner the better.
yeah. If you don't have it, don't take it. Don't cause yourself more problems.
Well, Justin, how many different counties have you lived in? I mean, I've lived in one, maybe two.
Doesn't matter if there's nobody at the other end where they're emailing this information to at the FBI.
Well,
The
the guy
FBI
told me
expected.
that it could take 3 months, and then I told him what my background is, and he said it.
And the
may
reason he's telling you to take 3 months is because he don't know how backed up they are because of the shutdown. That's the reason. It's usually done in 30 days. It could be longer because we've had a shutdown for a month and a half. And now it's temporarily going to be back on for 3 weeks. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it stays on. And who knows how long it's going to take them to get caught up. Do you have a question?
Yeah, so what do you have to do to get your CDL permit?
Take some written tests. There's 3 written tests you got to take.
Where do you do that?
You take that with the state of Minnesota at the DVS and the DVS office. You have a Minnesota license?
Yeah.
Yeah, you take that with the state. They got the information up in the front counter for how to do that. And where you go.
You just go to the DMV. One in downtown. It's just a test.
Yeah, it's just a written test. You got to study for it and take a test. It's just a written test. Just 3 tests actually. So when we go to put these schedules together, I'm the only one that does it. I want to do it in person. Now, people sometimes come in and they want to see me. Keep in mind, I'm only one person. I can only meet with you one at a time. When I sit down, I want to be able to answer your questions. Therefore, if you come in and there's a list, you go up to the front counter, the way it works to see me put together schedules and work on stuff. You go to the front counter and tell them what you want to see me about. There are things they can help with and take care of. Or find somebody else to help and take care of it. But if you need to see me, you let them know and they put your name on a list. I take everybody in order. There are days of the week. Thursday mornings is one of them. Because Thursday mornings, I'm going to be meeting with all of you that have permits and have passed the drug test to talk about scheduling. So Thursdays, the wait can be long. You can be here studying pre-trip and studying other things while you're waiting for me. But don't go up to the counter and get pissy and upset because this is taking too long. Don't come in here with a 10-minute window and go, well, I'm in a hurry, I only have 10 minutes, and leave. It's rare that I can meet people within 10 minutes. Anybody that walks in today to see me, they're being told to come back tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to be a busy person because tomorrow I'm not teaching class. I normally don't teach class on Mondays. I found out on Thursday of last week that I was teaching class today, so it messed up my whole schedule too. So be patient and wait. If you can't be patient, you're in the wrong industry, folks. There are going to be times you pull into a place with a set of paperwork to make a delivery, and they're going to say, oh, you got a 2-hour wait before I can take you.
4 hours.
It can happen. If you are not patient, you're in the wrong place. This is the wrong job. You might as well quit right now. Patience is important as a truck driver. And following rules is important. I got a friend who is a dispatcher at a local company, and they got 6 or 7 docks at their building. Only 2 of them are being used for deliveries and pickups. The other docks are being used for certain accounts, and they have stuff pre-staged at those doors. But only 2 of them are the shipping and main shipping and receiving docks. The rest of them are designated for certain people because they will line up outside that dock the whole delivery, so when a certain truck comes in, they can load it. So it's already pre-set up. So you can't just pull into that dock. And they got a huge sign outside their door, outside their docks, that says, drivers, park on street, bring your paperwork into the building, we'll tell you which dock to go to. So there's this driver out there, and they got a really small area to do this. So there's this driver out there, he pulls up and he backs into this dock, he gets himself in there, he's having a hell of a time getting into it, it's a tight place, in and out, in and out, in and out. He backs into dock 2, grabs his paperwork, walks in there, hands his paperwork to this dispatcher. This dispatcher goes, yeah, so where are you at? He goes, well, I'm in dock 2. He goes, what? I'm in dock 2. He goes, come with me. Grabs his paper, hands it back to him. Come with me, come with me. Drags him outside the door. He says, read that sign to me. He's reading it. No, read it out loud. Driver, park on the street, bring your paperwork in there. He goes, all right, now go park on the street and bring me your paperwork. Parks on the street, brings him in his paperwork. So you for a pickup? Yeah, okay. All right, pull into dock 2. You got to follow the rules, or that's what's going to happen. Now, if that driver really got pissy with him, he says, come back. He would have said, come back tomorrow. He don't care. So you cannot piss off these dispatchers. You need to follow the rules. So if you get to a place and you get impatient because you're waiting too long, he's going to make you wait longer. He don't care how long you wait. So a 45-minute wait can end up being 3 or 4 hours because you yelled at him. So if you start yelling at dispatchers at docks because you're impatient, I promise you, you just doubled your time. He's not going to get you out of there quicker. He's going to make you stay there longer. So you have to be patient in this industry. Same thing goes around here. If you start yelling at me, you think I'm going to help you? Don't yell at me. When it goes to putting together schedules, I need notice if you can't make it. The only exception to that is weather. Like today, people called up and said, hey, I'm not coming. Okay, fine, please stay home. We haven't even started any driving lessons today because we don't have everything started and plowed out yet. So everything's getting rescheduled or delayed. So there again, this could happen to you. We have snow going all the way into May. I've had snow happen in June before in this state at this school. So March, we can get some really heavy snowfalls. So there's going to be times that it's possible in February or March you have driving lessons that get canceled. Don't get mad about it. It is what it is. We cancel because of bad weather. We've been in business for 21 years and we have a perfect safety record. We have no reportable collisions where we've had to report it to the insurance company, and we are going to keep it that way. We are not taking inexperienced drivers out in bad weather. Now, experienced drivers, that's a different situation. You're inexperienced. I'm not going to teach you how to drive a truck in bad weather. And I get the argument, well, I need to learn how to do that eventually. I'm like, well, wouldn't you rather learn how to drive it first on clear roads so you know how to drive it? Then we worry about bad weather? You don't learn how to drive in bad weather. You need to learn how to drive before you learn how to drive in bad weather. So we cancel lessons in bad weather, especially ice. Spring and fog is really bad because we get icy roads because that temperature is right, it gets down to 15, 20 at night, but then it's in the daytime, it's 40 degrees and rain. Now the roads are coated with water, and then it freezes at night, so first thing in the morning it's icy. And delay the start of things because of that. But in general, I need notice if you can't make it for appointments. If you no-show appointments and we can't get a hold of you and there's no good reason why you didn't show up, you're not going to get kicked out of school, but you will have your schedule canceled. And then you got to start over with a new schedule. So it's going to delay things if you start no-showing appointments. Now, I get the argument, well, I had an emergency. It's just like work. What happens if you don't show up to work? 2 things could happen. You're not getting paid, first off, if you don't show up at work. And it's quite possible you get fired, right? So if you're sick, you call in sick to work. Same thing here. So even if you don't give us a business day notice, still give us a courtesy to let us know you're not coming. A little over a year ago, I ended up in the hospital. I was sick. I was here on a Monday, and I was sick. And I left here about 10 o'clock. I think that's what I was told. And I went home. And later on that night, my son took me to the hospital. And I ended up down in the Mayo Clinic in intensive care. I had pneumonia and influenza. I still, when I was in the emergency room Monday night, 10 o'clock, whatever it was, I was still texting the owner of the school. They're trying to take my phone away. Hold on, I'm letting my boss know I'm not coming to work tomorrow. And told him to call my wife to see what was going on. So, you can call in sick if you're sick. Or have somebody call in. Just don't no-show, please. If you no-show, that's fine. We're just going to cancel your schedule. You won't have any more schedules, possibly. Because if I have other people that are willing to take it, I'm going to give it to them. I'm going to cancel yours and give it to them. So don't no-show. Again, bad weather-related issues will it's, you know, if it's weather, it's weather. We can't control that, so we'll just work around it best we can. Now, when you show up for driving lessons, you must have your driver's license and permit in your possession. Those of you that have permits, we've got copies of them. You still need the original in your pocket. A copy is just for us to verify that you have a valid permit, and so you know what the expiration date is. You're not driving on a copy. You're not driving on a copy of a picture of your driver's license, the picture of your permit. You need to drive on the original. So do not forget them at all. If you forget them, we're not going to cancel your lesson. If I have you reserved with a lesson at 7 o'clock in the morning from 7 to 9 for 2 hours with an instructor, and you show up here and you forgot your permit at home, we're not going to cancel and reschedule. That instructor is going to take you on new training. The only difference is you don't get to drive on the road. He's going to demonstrate driving, he's going to practice backing, he's going to practice pre-trip, but you're not going to be driving yourself because you forgot your permit. But we're not going to cancel and then pay the instructor to stand around and do nothing. So we're still going to go do training. So if you forget your permit, you're the one that's you're going to suffer because you're not going to get the full lesson. We're going to have to schedule another one so you get that, but we're not going to cancel. We're going to still do some training. So just remember to bring your permit, people. Gotta have it. It's extremely, extremely important. Come on, load. Slow computers. Oh my word, it's taking forever. There we go. Loading the document, not responding. There it goes. All right, so again, we touched on this a little bit. Again, federal rules require you to read and speak the English language in order to pass this test. Part of the test is going to be given, the examiner is going to be giving you directions, and you have to be able to read the street signs. Okay? So you have to be able to read street signs and follow those directions. The pre-trip is going to be 100% in English. You have to verbally explain every single component on this truck and how it works to pass this test. So when you're here doing training, we get people that English is a second language, and everybody that comes in here has different skill levels when it comes to English. So I ask that the people that have better English would help the ones that, so if you're here and you got really good English and you see another student and you can help them, please do, because that's how we have done this in the past. Like, for instance, we had the Russians. We had 2 Russian students. One whose English was really good and one wasn't. So the one that had good English helped the other ones who understood what he was doing, and that's why he passed the test. So are you guys Somalian or Ethiopian, or what, Somalis? Somali? So same thing. We get a lot of students here that are Somali, and they help each other. I mean, you guys are a close community anyway, so that's not a big deal. You guys like to help each other anyway and communicate. But remember, the test has to be done in English. So I've talked to all 3 of you, and all of you seem to have pretty good English, so it's not going to be as big of an issue as it is. We sometimes get students here that English is not that good. If you ever run across one of them, help them. Be helpful, okay? Because I can't help them because I don't speak your language. But the test has to be done in English. And there's the federal rules that say about them. It has to read and speak English language sufficiently to converse with the general public to understand highway traffic signs, signals, in English language. And also to respond to official inquiries and make entries on reports and records. So it has to be done in English. Restrooms are back here behind the classroom. There's a long hallway. Most of you may have already seen that. Again, those of you that have to do a drug screen, please do the drug screen. So it's down the end of this hallway of the restrooms. There, for the women's restroom, there is a key, and that's purposely. It's not to punish you. It's because men are pigs, and they go in there and trash the women's bathroom. So we keep the women's bathroom locked so men's don't go in there and pee all over the seat on you. I mean, it's just that simple because men will do that because they don't care. They're truck drivers, sorry. So we keep the women's bathroom locked because of that reason, because men like to go trash bathrooms. Lunch, snacks, coffee, etc. is allowed here in the classroom. Just please clean up your trash. I don't have a maintenance guy that comes at the end of the day cleaning up after you. We have somebody come in and wipe down the counters, but there's trash cans all throughout here. When you get done, throw your trash away, please. There are outlets underneath all these counters. You can plug in, just have your own cord, plug in to charge your phones, laptops, tablets, whatever you want. There is Wi-Fi available. So the password for that, if you scan it, the password for that is ITDS, capital letters ITDS 1998, Interstate Truck Driving School 98th year you opened up the business. So we share a parking lot out here with Midwest Fence. Midwest Fence is the owner of this property. They are our landlord. So we split it down the middle. Half is theirs, half is ours. There's signs out there kind of delegating which is which. Do not go down and park in front of a sign that says it's reserved for the owner of the company for Midwest Fence. They stopped coming and telling us that because they get tired of that. They'll just have your car towed. Stay on our side of the parking lot. It's marked. If the parking lot happens to be full, park on the street. Do not park in Midwest Fence side. They will have you.
Are you guys actually associated with the Interstate company?
What Interstate company?
The other ones, I suppose.
I don't know what you mean.
The trucking company. That they
Excavating, they do
No.
excavating.
Nope, not at all.
Okay.
If you do park on the street, don't block the driveway. Leave room for big trucks to get in and out. We put some cones out there blocking people so they can't park in certain spots because it's really hard for the trucks to make turns. Remember, we have student drivers here. Don't put your car in a place where student drivers can hit you. And also the end parking spot, there's usually my big truck parked there purposely at a straight through. It's not at a diagonal like the rest. That's purpose because if cars are parked the long way, trucks have a hard time getting in and out, so it's designed that way on purpose. And I usually take that spot simply so we don't have people messing up the driveway, because Midwest Fence has large trucks with 53-foot trailers coming in every day, and if people block the driveway, they can't get in and out. They get pissy, then Midwest Fence calls and they want to have stuff towed. So we don't want to have your car towed. Now, recruiter visits. I got a sign up here on the wall over there. Recruiter visits are voluntary. Now, today is the 28th. I don't see a recruiter on the schedule for today. So the next one we're going to have is Wednesday, McLean. It's going to be here at noon. Thursday there's one at 10. Thursday there's another one again at noon. Those of you that have jobs already, it's still nice to listen to them. If you don't have a job, definitely listen to them, even if it's not something you're interested in. You can learn something from these recruiters about these different companies so you know what type of jobs are out there. There's so many different types of trucking jobs. Listen to what they have to say. A lot of them will bring snacks or food as well. But listen to what they have to say. For instance, McLean, they send a lot of students here themselves to work at McLean to come here to school. And a lot of people like to go there. But even students, McLean students will sit here and listen to the other recruiters just so they know what else is out there, because sometimes people don't like to stay at the same job. But there's lots of different companies to work for. Listen to what they have to say. When it comes to recruiters, Josh and Matt do the scheduling of it, but one thing we cannot answer, so don't come to us and ask us questions about specific companies, because I don't know what that company wants that day. We need to call the recruiter. And we have a list, Josh and Matt have a list up at the front counter of all the different companies that we've approved to come in here. Before Bill will let somebody come in here and recruit with you, he does a quick safety check on it. He pulls up their safety rating. If this company has a crappy safety rating and their trucks are junk and they're breaking down and their drivers are getting tickets, he won't let them come in here and recruit. Simple as that. So he makes sure that they're a safe company. He only wants people going to safe companies with decent equipment. He doesn't want people. Now, there are some companies that will hire students, but that doesn't mean we approve them. So if you go to a company that we didn't talk about and you have a bad experience, don't come yelling at us. If you go to any company and you have a bad experience, again, you need to ask questions. This is your job. We're just allowing these people to come in here and recruit you. We're not recommending any one of these over another. Every single one of these companies is going to have something different to offer you, and every single one of these companies is going to have something different you all want. So you need to ask these recruiters, what do you want before you go work for these places? But the number one thing you should think about is, are they a safe company and how new is their equipment? I don't want to go work for somebody that's got old junky stuff and maybe over the road. Because if you break down on the side of the road, you're not getting paid. You're waiting for a tow truck. You only make money if you're driving the truck. You're not making money while you're sitting waiting for a tow truck. You don't want to go to a company that's driving a 10-year-old truck and drive over the road. A local job, that's different. You break down, you get a tow truck, you get back in the shop, they give you a different truck. But over the road, you want new equipment. Local jobs don't always have new equipment, but you're home every day. They do maintenance on a daily. That's why local jobs have older equipment. Most over-the-road companies don't keep their trucks more than 3.5 years before they replace them. Then they sell them off, then local companies end up buying them. Or small regional guys will buy them. So again, all these recruiter visits are voluntarily. There's also some flyers out on the counter that have some of these different jobs. Now, looking up there, R&E is one of the ones that's coming this week. Halver is another one that's coming this week. Next week's U.S. Express, Schneider. So Halver, U.S. Express, and Schneider, those three are over-the-road companies. R&E is a LTL type company. DLI is a dedicated company, and McLean is also a food service. They're a food service company. So there are three different types of jobs that are here. The LTL, like R&E, that's coming on Thursday, they're the type of people, when an LTL is less than, well, it's not a full trailer load. So what will happen is, let's just say we want to sell this air compressor. So the guy in Boston wants to buy this air compressor. So what's going to happen is I got to find a trucking company to ship this air compressor, right? I'm not going to send this FedEx. It costs too much for something that heavy. So I got to find a place like R&E and see if they have it run. So what R&E will do is they'll send a small truck over here, like a straight truck or a lift gate or something, and pick it up and take it to one of their hubs. So they're going to take it to their hub, and their first hub, load it there, and then it's going to go from here to Chicago, and then from Chicago, spend the night in Chicago, and then it's going to go to Indianapolis. Then it might go from Indianapolis to somewhere in Pennsylvania or New York or something like that, and then finally eventually make its way. So they're picking and dropping off at different things, and that's what LTL does. So like the driver at an LTL company, they pick this up here and they drive it to Chicago, drop off their stuff at Chicago, pick up more stuff, and then they come back here, and a different truck takes it to the next stop. So this air compressor could take a week to 10 days to get to where it's got to go. But that's the affordable way to ship it. If I want it done overnight and ship this FedEx, it's going to cost a fortune. So I just wait for the trucks that are going to take it home to LTL. And that's what LTL places like R&E do. There's lots of other ones out there that do that as well. Now, when you work for an LTL company, there are times you will be working at a loading dock. So if you're afraid of loading and unloading trucks and you want to drive every day, all day, don't take an LTL job. Usually LTL, you start out on the loading dock and you're the backup driver if somebody calls in sick or takes a vacation. So if you want to drive on day one, don't take an LTL job. You want to take a Halver, a U.S. Express, or a Schneider. Because when they go in there, they just back in the dock and then they just pick different cities and they drop stuff off. Logistics companies, DLI, for instance, Dedicated Logistics. That's what their name is. Logistics in their name. So DLI is a logistics company. They have a contract with one of their places is with Chrysler. I think that's the Hudson one, and then for General Motors at Hudson, and their Plymouth office does Chrysler. So General Motors and Chrysler, they deliver parts to dealerships. So all these parts get delivered to their warehouse, and then they go out in the middle of the night. They start their runs at 10 o'clock at night, and they spend all night long delivering to car dealerships. And they're dedicated to that car dealerships, delivering stuff for them to all the GM dealerships and Chrysler dealerships around the Twin City metro area. So you start in the middle of the night for that job, and then you're paid a salary for the day. You're not paid by the mile or by the hour. And then the quicker you get it done, you still make the same pay either way. Weather affects that, so you end up losing money because it takes you longer, but it is what it is. McLean, the first one on the list, the one that'll be here on Wednesday, they deliver food to restaurants and stores and Targets and whatnot. So they're a big warehouse full of food, and they load up reefer trailers, and you go out and deliver food. They're making lots of stops in the day. loading and unloading the truck yourself. Somebody else loads it for you, but so there's different types of jobs out there. Then there's private carriers, which is McLean would be considered a private carrier. Some of the private carriers do not hire students right out of school. Toro, for instance, in Ashley Furniture, Walmart. A lot of times they don't hire directly out of school. Now that's becoming easier to get those jobs now because of the driver shortage that's out there. But Toro, for instance, won't hire you out of school, but Schneider will. Schneider has a contract for Toro now. So you could end up hauling stuff for Toro if you get a job at Schneider. And it ends up being a dedicated job. So there are becoming more and more private carriers hiring out of school because they're short drivers. But for the most part, the private carriers, don't be discouraged if they say no because you don't have experience. Just go get a series of one of the big carriers. Owner-operators. Anybody here wants to be an owner-operator? I'm not going to ask the question. I'm just making a statement. If you want to be an owner-operator, that's great. Owner-operators work a lot of hours. The owner of this school, he's basically an owner-operator. He owns and operates this business, just like an owner-operator for a truck. He works, when he's here in town, he works 7 days a week. There are days he's here at 6:30 in the morning, and there's still days that he's here at 9 o'clock at night because he owns the business. If you're an owner-operator, it's the same thing. You're running your own business. If your truck breaks down, you're not making a paycheck, but you're still going to make your truck payment. So think about that. So what I recommend anybody that wants to be an owner-operator, get a job for at least a year, maybe 2, driving somebody else's truck and make sure this is exactly what you want to do before you make the investment of buying a truck and making a truck payment and getting your own authority. Now, there are companies out there that are going to do lease purchase with a carrier. What that means, you go to work for major carrier, Werner, Schneider, Swift, any of those carriers. They're going to give you the option to buy one of their trucks under a lease. You're not a true owner-operator because you are paying them your truck payment and still has their name on the side of the truck. A true owner-operator starts their own company and gets their own authority. And that's what I'm talking about. I recommend staying away from that because there's a lot of money that you have to spend up front with insurance, bonding. And quite frankly, you probably would be uninsurable. The insurance would be so high, you'd be prohibited from being an owner-operator right out of school without experience. But you got the lease purchase. But the problem with the lease purchase is those companies don't always you're making them a truck payment. They don't always give you enough work. If you don't have enough work for you, it doesn't matter. You're still stuck there. You can't go haul for somebody else. So if you get a slow week, you still got to make your truck payment. You still got to make your insurance payment. So I recommend staying away from that until you learn the business because a new driver is not going to get as many miles as an experienced driver. So you're hurting yourself. You're going to be hurting your paycheck, your bottom line, by starting out as a lease purchase program. Get experience driving their truck. If you have a slow week, yeah, you're going to have a smaller paycheck, but at least you don't have to make a truck payment. Get good at what you're doing before you bring on those extra expenses. I've had lots of students fail at this because they didn't want to listen to us and they became owner-operators. A year later, they're bankrupt because they went out and signed a contract to buy a truck. When you do a lease, it's a few years. It's not like it's a month to month. So be careful. Asking questions is important. Ask questions. But remember that sometimes we're busy here and we can't answer your question on the spot. And believe it or not, everybody here doesn't know everything. So if you ask a question, I might not have an answer or somebody might not have an answer. So be patient so we can get you the correct answer. We're not going to make up the answer. Because one thing we will not do here is make up an answer just to make you happy. We're going to say, sorry, I don't know that, but I'll find out. Bob, the one guy that we talked about that's retired now, he was like that all the time. You would ask him a question, he'd be like, I don't know, and he'd write it down, and the next day he'd give you a really good answer. He'd go look it up on the internet and research everything, federal rules or whatever. He'd make sure he gave you the correct answer. Now, when it comes to questions, make sure you're directing the question towards the correct person. Don't, again, like I said, the folks at the front counter, they're not instructors, they're not trainers, they don't teach the class. They just kind of know how the flow of things work, but they don't teach class. When it comes to truck stuff, come into class and ask the classroom instructor. don't go asking the guys at the front counter stuff about trucks. That's just not their thing. We talked about the time badges. Josh has got his wonderful demonstrating all the different time badges. Please remember to punch in. It's important. I can't stress that enough. People always forget. Don't forget to punch in and punch out when you're here. It's really, really important. All right, we're going to take another 10-minute break. It's 10 o'clock now. So come on back here at 10 after. It's 10:01 now, so we'll see you about 10 after, 11 after.
I think it's how fast do you think I could get on it? Is there like reading material that I
Yep,
can go through?
they got a manual up at the front counter they give you.
And then any DMV, can I go to the one like in Chicago City or just have to go?
Well, you can't go to a place that sells taps. It's got to be a state DMV where they actually give the
Okay.
test. So if you got like up there,
For the plane area,
well, our mills.
oh yeah, okay.
Our mills.
So I could do that, hopefully have it by Thursday, okay.
Well, they're only open 8 to 4:30, so you'll be able to take it Thursday and we
Yeah.
talk Friday about scheduling. So you can study in the evening, so they got them up the manuals up at the front.
Perfect, I'll do that next.
We will let them know that there's a recruit.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, no, we told me about it.
Yeah, we thought that they
Yeah, I
would
knew about
cancel,
it.
but they're trying to make things work. And they're bringing people. It's transport.
Also, Transport America is coming in.
Yep, they are coming in and bringing people.
Of course, you have a lot of come up with stuff to teach.
Just tell them that just talk to them about the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. That would cover it.
No, I'm not doing that. I got it.
How often are the classes like?
Well, today's class is every Monday. Tomorrow's class is every Tuesday. Wednesday's class is every Wednesday. Everything else is done by phone. There's certain things that you come in and do and talk about. So we'll talk about those things.
So like, what if, for instance, like I wanted to do like this later, like when the weather is better?
Well, that's something you're gonna have to talk to with the Y, because then what they might do is they're gonna put you out the program for the other spots. They have a time frame. The Y is finding you, they have a time frame. Right?
Okay.
Because they have to get people, they have a start and finish date. Big window, but their funding is based on funding success. So they sign people up and they don't complete the program, and they don't get the next quarter to fund more people. So if you don't want to do it within their time frame, then the payers will put you out. Give you their spots, and that's a lot. And quite frankly, doing it in the bad weather is actually nice because you actually get some experience with it. It's better to do it now than like the summer. If you're help you through it, it takes a little longer versus doing it in the summer and then all of a sudden the first time it's snowing.
I like to drive in winter.
Yeah, so I heard my 16th March, so I drive all winter long. I took my road test in a snowstorm. You know.
Yeah.
So I learned how to drive. Same thing. I learned how to drive.
There
There are countries that do that. I think it's Finland.
Yeah.
You have to take 4 road tests there. They have less. They have the country I'm thinking of. I think it's Finland. I'm not 100% sure. I have to research it. But there is a European country, and they do driver's ed for cars. You do your first driver's license test during the day in the summer. Once you pass that and get experience, then they give you one at night in the summer. Then they do it all again in the winter. You have to take your driver's test in bad weather if you're driving bad weather.
Yeah.
They have less accidents than anyone. Their driver's ed's like a couple $100 versus 30.
Yeah. When I married my ex-husband, we had to do an INS sponsored petition. So when I went to my first interview with them, they said, we did your FBI background check. We didn't even find any priors as a juvenile. This will go relatively easily because you do not have any
Sure.
kind of record.
If you're already in their system, a little quicker.
Yeah, so I did that when I was 27, so this
But
makes
you're still
it
there.
faster.
But is there somebody there doing it? Because those are not essential people that do
Yeah.
that. I don't think those people are going to have.
I don't think they're like the TSA or the flight control. I think they're basic. I know a few.
Well, I know a federal guy that works for, he's not working, he's a cop, but he's not working because he's not essential. He's off, he's been off for
Yeah,
a month.
they're all in Las Vegas right now.
So the person that does the FBI background check is not a cop, they're a civilian working at the FBI, they're non-essential. I don't think they're at work.
Yeah.
They're furloughed. So they're not working, so that's why I don't think there's anybody that is considered non-essential.
What if we have to leave early for like, these 3 days? Not all 3 days, but like 1 or 2 days.
So depending on what day and what time determines on you have to make it up.
Nothing's crazier than a typical employee telling you, we looked at when you were 12 years old. They really do go back. I even knew when I was detained for jaywalking. Well, one time I got in trouble for jaywalking. Right.
Okay.
That's what I was doing.
Probably helps in getting it started. Brought them down to Texas, Richmond, do some more.
Yeah.
Look pretty close if you're interested in hunting,
Yeah.
maybe you'll get some more.
Yeah, I really want to try it.
Yeah.
Yeah, look them up. They do
Yeah, I will.
stuff. And then everything's free. They do health clinics, so they'll fly you down to Chicago for 3 days, and they go through and get like full nutrition plans, physicals, workout equipment.
And that's all through the just doing the work.
Right.
Yeah, they got like Project Odyssey retreat for like 10 years of your life, do like a camp for 2 weeks, and you guys just hang out, live in luxury, do some relationship building stuff.
Yeah, that sounds. Yeah, we'll have to talk more about that if you have a contact, because
Yeah.
I haven't really taken advantage of any of that kind of stuff. I don't know, since 05, you know.
Yeah,
It's been
Yeah, that's-
forever. But
like I said, I joined, I was like, I don't think I qualify. I'm like, no, trust me, we're trying to get, they're basically trying to be the new BMW.
sure.
Like they sent me to Walker, the resort on Walker for opening fishing. And a cat, a whole
Up
family.
on leash.
On leash, like, yeah, one whole family. 5 days, zero cost. Food, drinks, transportation.
I do that a few times a year and I pay for all of it, so what the hell?
Yeah. They just sent out an email list of stuff that you can sign up for.
Well, yeah, I'll talk to you more about that.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And they handle all your claims and stuff in the beginning.
Oh, they will, yeah, because I
They're
had,
representative for GI Bill, getting claims done, all that kind of stuff.
yeah, I actually used the county recently because I had the back thing and I said stuff on my knees because the surgeon told me, he's like, this has to be from an injury, there's no way amnesia like this. Well, no, so I told him about my accident when I was there or whatever. And so he wrote me this letter, I sent them and they deny it, which is what they do.
Yeah.
They always deny, so then you have to, fight it. It's like, so many hoops to jump through. I just finally went to the county and said, hey, can you help me with this? Because they know what they're doing,
Yeah.
instead of trying to figure it out myself. I'm glad I did, so I'm in the middle of doing all that crap.
Yeah, I went through CVSO at first too, and then after I turned the up on it, they were like, oh, we just look at your file. I'm like, we can fix your stuff.
Oh, really?
Just sign this. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to you more about that.
We got a career counseling, job placement, shit, all that kind of stuff.
And they're always trying to cheat my dad out of.
Yeah, because I did a house for him in
And then they try to hate him.
Apple Valley, like
That sounds lovely.
years ago. It was through another company that I'd done some subbing for, and then they got this contract, so I went and remodeled the whole place. They gave it to a guy and did the whole repeal thing.
My dad's like,
We just did the work.
We hide behind that religion so much.
that'll be a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And we're back. Everybody's here this time. Not playing. I'm missing that. So, now this is organization out there called the CVTA, Commercial Vehicle Training Association. So here's the deal. These people are, they work with trucking companies and schools to come up with a different curriculum. Currently, there are no rules in place that say you have to do anything specific other than some minor stuff. Now, there are some new rules that the feds have imposed, but not all the states are requiring them. Starting by a certain date next year, within a year, I don't know which date it's going to be unless they get it extended, there are some rules that the federal government has required. And those federal rules are in place that says you have to go to school before you take a road test. So after this date, you will not be allowed to take a road test without going to a school. You can't just go work at John Doe's trucking company and then take their truck over to the DMV and take a road test like until now. The feds are requiring everybody to go to school. When they came up with all these different rules, they were dealing with all these different organizations, the trucking companies, the schools, the Commercial Vehicle Training Association, coming up with what the guidelines were going to be. The original rule said you must go to school for a certain amount of hours and you have to take a certain amount of behind-the-wheel training hours. When they put out those rules about 8 years ago, the trucking companies went ballistic because of expense. This rule was going to be like 40 hours of behind-the-wheel one-on-one training on the road. Well, this program would cost $20,000. Nobody could afford to go to school. The trucking companies went ballistic. So now the new rules that they've applied or required are, it's real simple. You go to school and then they threw it at us. They make us do evaluations on you. So the road test is broken up into 3 parts: pre-trip inspection, backing, and driving. The way the road test works is you have to pass the pre-trip inspection before you're able to move on to backing. You pass the pre-trip, then you do the backing test. You have to pass the backing, then you go do the driving. You have to pass the driving before you get the license. You have to do all 3 of those things. They're all scheduled the same day. But if you fail the pre-trip inspection, you don't do anything else, you are sent home. Now, when it comes to us, what they said that we have to do is we have to test you here at the school. And you have to pass our test before we're even allowed to schedule a road test. Now, those rules aren't in place yet, as far as the state's requiring to do it. So Wisconsin and Minnesota don't do that yet. But the rules are there. So we're doing it to gear up for it. So when they start doing the rules, we don't have to change a thing. So that's the way we do our training here. We're going to test you ourselves before we send you off for the road test. Now, if you fail one of our tests and you want to take the road test, legally we can still send you out for the test and let you fail. But if you do that, we will not give you free retests. If you fail one of our tests and then demand that you go out and take a road test, we'll let you go and do it. But then you will not get a free retest. We're going to charge you a minimum of $600 for a retest. So who here wants a free retest if you happen to be unlucky and fail your test? Nobody? No, I would. Everybody should be raising their hands now. So if you want a free retest, you need to follow our lesson plan. If you want to pay money for a retest and just basically rent the truck, you can put $600 a pop for a test. Per test, on top of everything you've already paid. So if you want free retests, you got to follow our lesson plan. If you don't understand the concept of following the lesson plans and being in school, you're at the wrong place. This is a school. Not one of you here has paid us money to rent our truck. That's not what we do here. If you want to do that, I know a place up in Arden Hills that'll rent you a truck. They don't give any training. They're not a licensed school. You go pay them a couple $1,000s, and they'll take you out for a bunch of road tests. And then after you fail 4 of them, then you have to go to a licensed school before you're allowed to take another road test anyway. So you'd be here anyway, and that should pay us some more money. If you want to come to school and learn training, that's what we're here for. This is a school. You need to follow our lessons and trust our lessons. When you come in and sit down with me after you've been with an instructor and I want to go over what happened on the lesson, go over their notes, I don't need excuses as to why what happened happened. What I need from you is to just have an open dialogue as far as what we're going to do to make it better for the next time. Not sit there and give me a bunch of excuses as to why it didn't go good. I don't care why it didn't go good. What I do care about is let's get it better the next time. There's a difference. I don't need excuses. I don't need to hear, yeah, but. Anything you tell me after the word but's a bunch of crap anyway. I don't care. So it's not yes, but. It's like, it's yes, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, then do it. A lot of people butt heads with us when it comes to that, and I just tell them where the door is. So that's why we're saying tomorrow morning you want to come in and ask for a refund for those you paid. You're more than welcome to, and then I'll give you the address and phone number of the place that rents the truck. But if you came here to sign up to actually go to school, we'll help you out. Because we don't rent trucks here. We're not a truck rental place. We don't sell CDLs. We do training and then let you go take the test with the examiners. This Commercial Vehicle Training Association that I mentioned earlier, they contacted Bill, the owner of the school, a couple years ago and said part of what they do is they keep track of all the different trucking companies and all their new hires. And they said nationwide, not just regional or state, nationwide, of all the trucking companies that they work with and all the schools that they work with, students that come out of Interstate truck driving school stay at the job, their first job, longer than any other school. Because we give you kind of a no BS approach at things. We're not going to lie to you about what these carriers say. We're going to tell you the truth. One of the things we're going to talk to you about is there are certain carriers, none of them are on, oh, there is one of them on the list. Schneider, there's another one called Rail. They're both really good trucking companies. But they give the least amount of training when you're coming out of school. So if you're struggling, I don't recommend you go to those companies. Because they're going to throw you out there on your own and you might not be as successful as you would have went to U.S. Express. Schneider and Rail generally have 3 weeks of training when you graduate school. Halver and U.S. Express will do 5 to 6 weeks of training. So if you're struggling, you don't want to go to the one that only does 3 weeks of training. All companies are required to give you some sort of road test before they're allowed to let you take the truck on your own. Some of the companies give you that road test after training. Some of them give them to you on day 1 before training. Which one would you rather go to? The one that does it after training. Schneider does it before they put you in the training. Yes, sir.
I know Alberline does it when you
they do it
before and after.
The one before is just you got the basics, but the one after is the one that counts.
Okay.
They do the basics. Can you start the truck, drive around the parking lot, drive around the block? Because if you can't do that, they're not even going to talk to you. But they do another one after.
Okay.
Schneider does it on day number 2. You go in there, you do your drug test, you do all your stuff, and then they go do your road test right off the bat and a vacuum test. If you can't do that, they stop the train right there. So that's not a place to go if you want to struggle. But if you're doing well, it's a great place to go because they're going to get you out making money quicker than anybody else. So it's just a matter of which company works for you at that time. I've had lots of students. Schneider has both manual and automatics. If you have the manual transmission on your license, they're going to give you a manual. And I've had a lot of students go to these companies. Who here's taking this test in a manual transmission? So those of you that are taking it in a manual transmission, if you go to a company that has both, odds are they're going to give you the manual. If you don't drive well in the manual, they're going to cut you loose. You're not going to say, well, I can do the automatic. It's too late now. Who here wants to drive brand new equipment and who here wants to drive old equipment? I mean, I want to drive brand new equipment, don't you? If you have the manual transmission on your license, you're not going to drive brand new equipment. They haven't sold new manual transmissions unless they're special ordered for 2 years. So if you have a manual transmission license, you're going to get the old truck. You're not going to get the new truck.
Maybe switch that then, because I asked them up front and they recommended, well, why not get it?
There are certain jobs, though, where it's better to have it. So depending on what you want to do, you got to look at the long term. But I'm telling you right now, then if that's the case, go to a place like Halver, they only have automatics. You're going to get an automatic no matter what. But Schneider has both because they're a lot bigger of a company and they're phasing out their manuals. Then when your manual's gone, the next truck you're going to get is an automatic. But
How long do the trucks?
3 to 4 years tops for big carriers. But 2 years ago is when they started phasing them out, so it's gonna take them a full 4 years. So it's still a couple more years to go with these carriers that are still having transmissions. But companies like US Express and Halver, they're 100% automatic. They don't even have manual transmission.
Well, I mean, a truck that's 3 years old is not going to be automatic.
Yeah. 3 years old, it's got 600,000 miles on it, 700,000 miles on it. It's prone to break. Anything over 500,000, it's prone to break. We had a pair of students coming here. They went to the same company. They went down to Werner. And at the time, I don't know what they do now, but at the time, Werner had a policy that their trucks, average life of their trucks was 30 months. What does average mean? That's down in the middle. So they got some that are brand new, and then they got some that are up to 5 years old, right? If the average is 30 months. Well, the student sitting in class didn't hear the word average. So he thought all their trucks were less than 3 years old. You get done with training for that truck that's 4 years old, and he went ballistic. This is a bunch of BS. You guys lied to me. And I'm dealing with all these breakdowns, and the guy that went down with me, he got a new truck. Well, during training, the one guy argued with his trainer, and the one guy didn't. Which one got the new truck? The guy that didn't argue with the trainer. So, I don't know. I just would rather do the automatic myself. If I was getting a job now, I'd do the automatic. I wouldn't even bother. But local jobs have more manuals because they have older trucks. So if you want a local job, then it's worth it. If you want to start out a local job, because like say for instance DLI, they have both manual and automatics, and they have more opportunities. McLean has automatics, but they have some manuals too, so they prefer that you don't have the restriction. Halver has all automatics, but if you can't have the restriction, that's great, because if one of their trucks break down and they have to rent one for you, they could have a manual one, so it might just be a logistical mess if you break down and they aren't able to rent you an automatic right away. But it's getting better.
That's what happened to my brother.
Yeah.
He went to Halver Line and he broke down, so they rented him a truck, and it happened to be manual.
Because that's where the manual that they rented, the truck that they rented before he broke down, all they have close to it.
Yep.
They could have gotten an automatic, but it took them a few more days
Yep.
of sitting on the side of the road not making money.
And he was sitting there about 7 days prior to that, so they needed to make a move.
So, yeah. But this Commercial Vehicle Training Association has Bill and says, so Bill, why is it that your students are staying at the job longer? Well, Bill thought about it. He goes, well, I'll get back to you. Then he thought, he goes, I'm not telling them why. Why? So that they're going to go advertise this to all the other schools? But the bottom line is, it's because we're honest. We're going to be 100% honest with you. We're not a CDL mill where you come in on this date and 4 weeks later you're done. That's the way a lot of schools work. Now, is it possible to get done in 4 weeks? Yes. We're not going to say you're get done in 4 weeks. We're not going to push you to get done in 4 weeks because you're not successful. Because some of these truck driving schools charge you X amount of dollars. 4 weeks later, they don't care if you have a license or not. If you fail the test, some of these schools would only give you 2 tries. When Century College was open, it was a 4-week program. At the end of 4 weeks, if you failed your test, a week later they get you in for a retest. You failed that one, they were done. They wouldn't give you any more tests. So you went through 4 or 5 weeks worth of training and never got a license. Is this school worth anything if you don't have the license? It's worth absolutely nothing if you don't have the license. Nothing. So the way we approach our training is we work with each person on their different skills. That's why, like, you two are sitting next to each other. You guys friends? You came here together? One of you might be done faster than the other. I don't know. But don't get mad if you take a week longer than him. It is what it is. We're going to still give you what both of you need to pass this test, but don't worry about how long it takes each of you to get through it. Don't worry if you both get done at the same time. That's the worst thing you can do is worry about somebody else. Worry about yourself. So everything we do, we could do in 4 weeks, but then we would have a hard time making sure you can pass the test. Because one of the things that the feds are going to start doing when these new rules go into place, they're going to monitor the pass-fail rates, and then they're going to go jump all over the schools that have a really bad fail rate. Going, what the heck is going on? Why are all your people failing the test? You're not doing your job correctly. So we want you to pass. So we're not going to try to rush you through this in 3 or 4 weeks just to go fail the test. We'd rather work with you for 5 or 6 weeks to make sure you can pass the test. We want you to pass the first time. Now, since we started doing these evaluations, so far in the month of January, with the pre-trip inspection, I've only had 1 person fail a pre-trip this whole month. 1 person. And I knew that person was going to fail. But they also now have to pay $600 if they want to retest. Because they failed our evaluation, I says, if you go take this test, you're not getting a free retest. I want you to practice more than do another evaluation before you schedule a test. He had a big tizzy fit, big tantrum. So he went out and failed. And now he goes, yep, I need to schedule a retest. I go, well, first off, you have to come to pre-trip class. Second off, you have to do a new evaluation. Thirdly, it's going to cost you $600. Yes, sir.
What's the passing percentage for the first time drivers? I mean, first time, you take it the first time.
I don't have that. I just know that. I only want to keep track of the pre-trip right now. Okay. Because 2 months ago, our pre-trip pass rate was less than 50%. Now it's 90-something%.
What changed?
We evaluate. We're not letting you go take the test. No. Now, when it comes to road tests, the problem we have with that is you need to pass that evaluation. The biggest reason why people fail this test, the number 1 reason why anybody fails this road test is real simple. Speeding. You people need to watch the signs. If you speed, you fail the test. Period. The people that failed the test last week, 2 of the people that failed the test last week were both speeding. I'm not taking our training and responsibility for that. You should be able to pay attention to speed signs all yourself. Okay? It's very rare somebody fails a test because of just not being able to maneuver the truck. Everybody that fails this test is because of not paying attention, watching signs, and usually speeding. Yes, ma'am.
I have an opposite problem.
Going too slow.
Yeah.
I had 1 person fail their test last week for that.
Really?
They tried merging onto the freeway at 65 or 70 mile an hour highway at 40 miles an hour and then wondered why they failed the test.
I was ripped on by my behind the wheel examiner.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he told me twice, hurry up or I'm gonna fail you. So
They won't tell you that on this test.
All right.
They'll just fail you.
Right.
So there's where most of the people fail the driving test. And those things happen because of test anxiety. You get nervous and you just kind of get blinders on. You lose sight of the signs. So I can understand that. So that's why I don't keep track of the pass rate the first time on road tests. Now, I can't remember. There's one of the things that happens when you fail a test for hitting a curve. There's other things that happen. People don't fail for it. They fail for because they're nervous. They make nervous mistakes. They miss signs. They make mistakes. Now, but when it comes to the pre-trip, this is 100% on you. Tomorrow's class is 100% dedicated on pre-trip inspection, and you're going to see how much work it's going to take. And there's where the big factor is going to come in, how long it takes you to do this. Because everyone is going to be different. But he'll get onto that tomorrow. Now, whether you do the 160 hour, the 120 hour, the 100 hour, or the 200 hour program, it doesn't matter about the numbers. When you punch in and out, some numbers are going to pop up on the screen. Don't worry about those numbers. I had a guy that signed up for a 100-hour program, and his name was Abdullahi. And he came to me at 90 hours, and he goes, Pat, I got too many hours in. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, what are you worried about? He goes, well, I'm worried that you're going to kick me out at 100 hours. So if you're in the 100-hour program, or the 120-hour program, or the 160-hour program, or the 200-hour program, don't worry about anything. We are going to work with you. That person, by the way, he did pass his road test on the 100-hour program, and he ended up doing 220 hours here. I never kicked him out. We never charged him any more money. We worked with him. It took him 7 weeks to do it. He was worried that we were going to kick him out when we got to those numbers. So don't worry about the hours. Some of you, especially English as a second language, you might have to spend twice as much time here working on the pre-trip inspection as somebody else. Fine. I don't care how many hours you're practicing that. I'd rather you pass the first time. I don't care about so you're 200 hours working on the pre-trip. Big deal. Some of you, it's going to take a lot longer to learn how to back up. We're going to schedule you a week's worth of time on the simulators. You might end up spending a couple weeks out there. You might spend a couple weeks out on the range backing up. You might spend 50 hours learning how to back up. I need you to pass. I'm not going to complain that you took too many hours. The only time I'm going to complain is if you schedule something and then don't show. Then I'm going to complain. If you show up for everything you schedule, I don't care how long you're here for. I don't care how long you're here for. As long as you show up, we'll help you. If it starts taking too long, we'll find a way to help you get through it quicker. But we don't care how long it takes. So don't worry about the hours. Most people that do the 160-hour or the 200-hour program, they spend more than 200 hours here, either one. Because that's just the way it is. Drug screens. So y'all have to do the drug screen and talk a little bit about that. If drug screens are an issue, again, this is not the place for you. Or the industry for you. From this point forward, plan on taking drug screens all the time. Every single job that you go interview for and plan on taking the job, they're going to drug test you. If you want to accept that job. And then they have to wait for the results. Then, once you're employed with that place, they are going to random test you. There will be times where your boss says, by the way, I need you to go here today and go take a drug screen. They're going to direct you to the place to go take a drug screen. It's a fact of life. If you think that's going to be a problem, quit now if you can't pass drug tests. This is a, the big thing is that when Colorado legalized marijuana and other states legalized it, well, it's legal now. It's still not legal when you're driving trucks. So it doesn't matter if the drug is legal. There are still prescription medications that are illegal for you to be on under the influence. Even if you have a prescription, you can't drive a truck. So you can't get the health card. Random drug tests, again, you're going to have that happen quite a bit. And the way the random drug testing works is it's done quarterly. So in a 3-month time period, there's going to be a doctor's office that your company sets themselves up with. They're going to randomly spit out some names. Like us, we got a certain amount of drivers here that are licensed that are in the drug pool, and we sent those names to the doctor's office every quarter. And then they put us in a pool with thousands of other names, and then they randomly spit it out. For the last 2 quarters, we haven't had one random here at the school. I remember my first year working here, I got every one in a row. So every 3 months, I was doing a drug test for a year and a half because I got unlucky. Then I went 2 years without a drug screen. Then I got it again where I was getting drug screened. Sometimes I do alcohol. Alcohol, when you get randomed for that, has to be done while you're on the clock. They can't call you up at 5 o'clock at night and say, oh yeah, go do a drug screen after you're already punched out. They can only do alcohol while you're on the clock. A drug test can be done tomorrow on your way into work. Stop at this lab and do a drug test, but they can't do that with alcohol. You have to be punched in to do alcohol. Post-accident. If you get in an accident, they're going to give you a drug test. The feds have a certain amount of rules as to when they would do it. Most trucking companies, regardless of that, if you get into some sort of incident or accident, they're going to make you do a drug test. It's just a company policy. Reasonable suspicion. I worked at a company many years ago, and my dispatcher was sitting there with the manager of the store. We made building materials. We delivered building materials out to different places, to job sites. And the two of us walked in. It was 5:30 in the morning. We're just getting our trucks warmed up because we're starting at 6. But we would always go there early, start the trucks up, and then go have breakfast in the break room there while the trucks warmed up, so we had a nice warm truck so we could actually start at 6. So we walked into the office, and the manager smelled alcohol. Well, the guy that I was with, we both walked in together at the same time. Our little dispatch office had a room for a desk, one person sitting behind the desk, and barely 2 people in there. So there's 4 of us in there packed in this little dispatch hut, and he could smell booze. So we both got sent off to the doctor's office because the one guy smelled like booze from the night before. We both passed. He just had beer. He must have spilled on his jacket or something, or booze or something. He just smelled like booze. We both got sent, and I was not happy about that because now I still had the same amount of deliveries to make for the day, and now my day just got extended by 2 hours sitting across the street at the doctor's office waiting for somebody to come give me an alcohol test. So I was pissed. So I told him, I says, don't ever be near me again because I don't want to get reasonable suspicion, random drug test and alcohol test because he smelled like booze. It was just, he was sweating it out of him or something because he's a drunk. And unfortunately, I found out a couple years later by my former dispatcher, he actually came to school here to upgrade his B to an A. He told me that person had since passed away because I left the company, they stayed there. He actually died and drank himself to death. So yeah, he was a drunk. DOT physical. The only reason a DOT physical is required is if you want to collect a paycheck. I could go buy a truck right now that's a commercial truck and turn it into a camper. I wouldn't need a DOT physical to drive it. But if I want to get paid to drive a truck, I have to have a physical. Now, it's just better to get the physical. It just makes it easier to do your paperwork for your permit and your driver's license. But you don't need it to get the permit. You can check the box that says you're exempt. And then you can get the permit. You just want to have the physical done before you take a test, so you have it when you get the license. There's a doctor that comes here every Monday. If you're in the $160 or $200 program, we pick up that cost. If you're in the shorter programs, you have to pay for it yourself. For us testing in Wisconsin, you need to have it done before we do the road test. Because we're crossing state lines, then you have to have it. So you gotta have it before the road test. Now, testing out of state. There's a reason why we test in the state of Wisconsin and not the state of Minnesota. And the reason we're testing in Wisconsin is simply because the state of Wisconsin is following the federal rules. Remember I mentioned earlier, I said by next year all the states have to follow it. Minnesota has not been following federal rules for many, many years. That's the number one reason. First off, the examiners in the state of Minnesota that give the road test, not all of them have CDLs. So they don't even have a commercial driver's license. They've never driven a truck, nor have they ever taken the test that they're giving you. How fair is that? So you got some person who's a clerk who applied for a job, and it's not this person's fault. A lot of them are retired people that go and take this job, or people that were driving instructors. They didn't want to be driving instructors anymore. They become examiners. They apply for a job and they get it. They're improperly trained in the first place, and then they go out and give a road test for a CDL. So they're sitting in the passenger seat of a truck with you. Your permit specifically says this is only valid if the person sitting next to you has a license, and they don't have a license. That part doesn't bother me. The part that bothers me is who are they to judge me on my skills if they can't do it themselves? Now, in Wisconsin, they all are licensed CDL drivers. They have to have a certain minimum requirement before they can become an examiner. The feds have created a law a few years back. It says that all states all states are required to accept the results from other states. So you go take this test, since Wisconsin's one of the ones that's willing to give the test with a Minnesota license and permit. They'll do just about any state. Minnesota is required to accept those. Now, there are a couple states that don't follow the rules with that. Illinois is one of them. and they're being sued over it. There's a couple other ones too that don't accept that. If you live in Illinois, you can't test anywhere but Illinois, and they don't accept it, even though the feds say you have to. So Illinois is always getting themselves in trouble. I mean, of the last two governors, the last four governors, I think two of them ended up in prison. So their governors have issues with following rules. The commissioner of public safety in Illinois also ended up in prison too. They were selling CDLs a year. It was bad. So we take you over to Wisconsin, you take the road test. The second reason why we go over there is because we mentioned these examiners aren't following the rules. They're not following the rules on the test. Remember I mentioned earlier, you have to take the pre-trip inspection, pass the pre-trip inspection before you can do the backing. Same thing with the backing, then do the driving. For instance, and there's 3 separate tests. That's what the Minnesota State Manual says that there is. 3 tests. That's what their manual says. But they don't give you 3 tests in Minnesota. They give you 2. Pre-trip inspection. If you fail it, they still let you drive. And then the second test is backing and driving all in one test. Any points you lose on the backing portion of it affects your driving. The pass rate in Minnesota was at 40% for the first time, 30 to 40%. Which is horrible. The backing is twice as hard in Minnesota as it is Wisconsin. You got 3 backing maneuvers, same 3 maneuvers, but different rules. Wisconsin gives you 10 minutes in pull-ups. Minnesota gives you 5 minutes, and they don't allow you to pull up without a point loss. They only give you 1 pull-up on the alley back in Minnesota, no pull-up for straight back and offset. So they don't give you the same amount of time, and then they penalize you if you are safe and pull up. Wisconsin gives you twice as much time, and they give you lots of pull-ups. So the backing part of it is more fair. It's not that it's easier. It's the same maneuver. They're just more fair about how they let you do it.
How many pull-ups do they do?
2. We get 1 on the straight back, 2 on the offset, 2 on the alley back. And you get 10 minutes to do it. In Minnesota, if they gave you 2 pull-ups, you'd run out of time. They only give you 5 minutes. You need to have the whole test.
Well, I took mine over at Martin Hills with a 53-foot trailer.
Yeah. It sucks, don't
It
it?
doesn't work.
No.
She's like, oh, we've had people do it here before. I'm like, the little road you gave me.
Well, see, the dimensions are the same. That's why we use 28-foot trailers for the road test. 53 foots are not something you want to take the test in. It doesn't matter what state you test in. So, and then the driving portion of it, so you've already lost all these points on backing. If you pass it, now you've lost a bunch of points. You make 1 mistake driving, you fail in Minnesota. So we go to Wisconsin where it's like the federal rules dictate 3 separate tests, and then you get a fair test. It's not that, and there are certain aspects of the Wisconsin test that are more difficult, but since they split it up into 3 separate tests, one doesn't affect the other, it ends up being easier because of that reason. You're allowed to make mistakes and still pass. It's just Minnesota, they fail you quicker. They don't allow as many points off. So you're going to sign a piece of paper, though, before you take the test, except for those 2 of you that are Wisconsin residents. You don't have to sign this piece of paper. And this piece of paper is saying that I took the majority of my training in the state that you're testing in. It's only legal for you to go to Wisconsin and take this test if you go to school in Wisconsin. We have a school in Hudson, Wisconsin, where you will be doing a lot of your driving lessons from. You will not be doing a lot of your driving lessons from here because you're going to sign a piece of paper. Normally, Tuesday and Wednesday class is held in Wisconsin. Because of the bad weather tomorrow and Wednesday, we're not going to be driving you over there. We have a van, passenger van that we normally take everybody over to Hudson. We're doing it here in the classroom here because I don't want to take any chances of breaking down when it's 20 below 0. So we're going to do it here. But normally we would be going over there. But you are going to be going over there to be doing some training. If you don't want to go test in Wisconsin, that's fine. We'll test you in Minnesota, but then you better go get a road test now and you want to be at the exam station. Because they're 6 to 8 weeks out. I had a guy took this test last week in Egan, one of our students, and they said they couldn't even get him a test in Egan. They gave him one in Plymouth for February 27th. That's how far booked out they are from Minnesota. The other reason why we test in Wisconsin. Third-party examiners. I got 2 examiners that I'm working with. We're working on a third. We're getting a third right now. I got 2 others that are a little farther out. I get tests all day, every day.
Do you want to drive yourself to Hudson?
Yes, so there's, when we schedule appointments, so we're going to talk about that when we meet with appointments. If you want us to drive it, we can work it out. It's the schedule's not going to go as quick. If you want to drive yourself over there, then it goes a little quicker. Some of the driving lessons you're going to meet here, we're going to take you over there for the training, but you will be doing training in Wisconsin. Those two of you that live in Wisconsin, obviously, where do you live? You're Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Oh, you're Wisconsin.
Yeah.
There was one more that was sitting over here somewhere. Are you already?
Yes.
So you're Wisconsin, where do you live?
Both Claire.
Yeah, it's good, right? So maybe I just mentioned you were Hudson. Didn't like what you heard.
Yeah.
And we've tested over in Eau Claire, we've tested over in Chippewa Valley.
Okay.
We've gone over there for road tests before. We're not doing it now because it's a lot, but we lost one of our Hudson examiners, and we had and the guy over at Chippewa Valley was willing to do road tests for a couple weeks over there for us to help us out until we got another examiner in Hudson. So we've gone there. I wish we could go. They got a really nice facility over there for their drug testing school.
Yeah.
But I wish we could go over there for all our tests because they do the preachers inside. They got a big shop.
Oh yeah, I looked at it. It's very nice.
But they're the only one I know of that has that. But you're going to sign a piece of paper. Therefore, we're going to follow the rules. One of the things, though, that you're going to do is we're going to be issuing you on Wednesday some online coursework. That online coursework is going to give you credit towards 80 hours of classroom. That's how part of the reason why we can make this legal. You must complete your online coursework. If you don't want to do the online coursework, you're not testing in Wisconsin. Period. So, don't worry about these class schedule stuff. The big thing is we're as long as you're here for the practice, we'll schedule stuff as we go. But schedules will not automatically happen behind your back. You're not going to have a schedule that you're not going to know about. These are some old hours. We've changed a lot of this. So qualify for testing Wisconsin, you must receive more training at the school. The school we have in Hudson is called Apex Truck School. It's over in Hudson. The online coursework is issued with that. On Wednesday, we're going to be issuing you with all this online stuff. For those of you at the YWCA, one of the requirements that they have is you have to have this online coursework completed 100% before you get to go drive. Everybody else, our requirement is you have to have that done 100% before we talk about scheduling the road test. But the Y wants you to get it done before you even start the driving. They want you getting it done right away. Well, we had another organization similar to the Y that was funding some people. It took this guy 4 months. He showed up last week. He wants to schedule, so it took him 4 months to get it. Not realizing they kicked him out. He just showed up last week to schedule stuff, and the organization that funded him kicked him out because their contract said it had to be done in 4 months. He came by after 4 months and like, you're gone. So he's not happy. But we're going to follow the rules. We're not going to cheat it. You have to complete it if you want to do this. The bumper to bumper is going to give you 80 hours. We're going to do some training with you. We're going to do a long lesson, like a 6-hour lesson, and a few of you are going to go over there. And then we're going to do some one-on-ones. It usually doesn't even take 14 hours in Wisconsin, but usually 14 is the max it's ever taken. Because we do some of it here still too. But you have to do more driving lessons in Wisconsin than you do in Minnesota. So if you're struggling with shifting, then we're going to have to figure out a game plan to make sure you're still eligible to test in Wisconsin. You have to do all that online stuff to help offset the simulator time you do here, because our simulators are here, they're not in Wisconsin. So everything's got to be completed. So we got to do more training on the Wisconsin side, so when you sign that piece of paper, you're not lying. Because if they come in and audit us, and you sign a piece of paper that says, I went to school in Wisconsin, and didn't, two things will happen. They'll yell at us first, until they look at it, they'll take away your license. There was another school that was taking people over to Wisconsin to do their road test. They were signing this piece of paper, and they didn't have a licensed school in Wisconsin. So all the people that took their road test there have to retake their test in Minnesota if they want to keep their license. So testing has to be done. We're going to follow the rules in order to do this. You're going to like it much better. The big problem we had is, like I said, the guy failed his test last week, and they gave him a road test rescheduled, sorry, 2 weeks ago, and they gave him a road test February 27th. If you failed your road test in Minnesota, it would be 6 to 8 weeks before they could retest you. If you fail your road test in Wisconsin, it's anywhere between 2 days and 2 weeks, depending on the restriction. And the reason being is we have multiple examiners we can go to. So it's never been so far over 2 weeks of a wait to get a retest in Wisconsin. I had a guy fail his test last week on Thursday. He's retesting tomorrow. He made a lane change in the middle of a roundabout. Can't do that. Everything else was perfect. He would have passed. So the examiner gave him a 2-day wait. I didn't have one in 2 days, but I had one from Thursday to, I mean, technically it's 2 business days to Tuesday. So he's getting retested right away. If that would have been Minnesota, it would have been 6 to 8 weeks. Well, then you forget everything you learned. That's no good. Oops. Who here wants to make a lot of money? That's why y'all got into this, right? Y'all have crappy jobs and you want to make a better job. This is not an easy job, though. You got to work hard if you want to make a lot of money. Here's one of the reasons why we're going to be honest with you. This is not a job where you punch a clock. You come to work at 9 o'clock, punch your clock, and you go home at 5 o'clock. This is a job where you start the morning and you go home when you're done. For instance, looking up at the recruiter. By the way, there is a recruiter today. They're bringing pizza, so you guys got free lunch down there. DLI, for instance. You start the job at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and whatever time you start, you go out and make deliveries. You're not done until that truck is empty and you made all the deliveries. So it might be 8 hours, it might be 12 hours. This is not a job where you say, oh, I have to be off by a certain time. The more you're willing to work, the more you're willing to handle cargo, the longer hours you're willing to work, and if you don't care if you have time off on weekends, the more money you're going to make. If you think you're going to work 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, it's possible. But you're not going to make nothing. You're not going to make a paycheck. You can make that. You make more at Home Depot than you would doing this. Is it your brother drives truck?
Yep.
At Albert?
Yep.
How long do you out? 10 days at a time?
Yeah, something like that. A few weeks. My old man, he's been driving for over 20-some years.
Yeah. So you know how it works.
Oh yeah.
We had a guy come in here one day, and he was in the medical industry, making $60-some thousand a year. He thought he heard that he would become a truck driver and make $120,000 a year. And we laughed, literally to his face. You're not making $120,000 a year as a truck driver. We didn't sign him up. He was in here his first day, and afterwards he was talking about this. We're like, here's your money back, and you're going to be disappointed. Because the part he didn't hear, the people that make $100,000 a year are owner-operators. But they're spending $80,000 a year on expenses. He probably only makes $35,000 a year after expenses and taxes.
Plus with the new hour thing or whatever, ELD.
That's actually, people are making more money with that. Because people were spending too much time cheating the system instead of following the rules. Once you follow the rules and you get in a routine, you can make a lot of money.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you follow the rules. But the problem is what people were trying to do is they're trying to cram more hours into less days so they can have time off. That's what was happening. You know, we'll talk more about hours of service later. Now, Bill, the owner of the school, has a formula, and it's pretty accurate. It's not a proven scientific fact because there are other factors, but how many hours are you willing to work in a week? If you want to work 40-hour-a-week job, you're going to make 40, 50, 60, 70. When we talk to these companies and we just kind of ask them what their drivers are making for their different jobs, and it averages out, 40-hour-a-week jobs going to make about 40 grand a year. Those are going to be the local jobs in your home. If you have to be done in 8 hours. Now, DLI is local, But you're not always done in 8 hours, but those guys are making more money. It's that simple. 50, 60, 70. You can make, and 70 is where it's capped. That goes along with this gentleman said. You're only allowed to drive 70 hours in an 8-day time period. Actual driving time. Actually, it's a little more than that, but 70 hours in a week. So, depending on there's so many rules and hours of service, it gets really confusing. We'll talk more about that. And the good thing is now because it's all electronically done, every minute's accounted for, so you can actually come out with more hours than you would have before by rounding things off to 15 minutes and 30 minutes an hour. So actually, it's coming out better with the new rules. But there's so much. It's just the computer does it for you. And again, we're going to get into some more talking about that later. The hours of service, but every minute's accounted for. So as long as you plan your week out and do trip planning, it works out, and that's some of the stuff you'll learn when you get in with your carriers. All right, before we get into more, we're going to take a break, another 10-minute break here. We're going to do a little early because it's going to take me longer than 5 minutes to cover this next section. So we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then come on back.
I know it's bullshit, but find a part-time job, definitely lower pay, but I need more hours into this. Hopefully you have lots of snow days. I mean, good God, you have this right during the day and then come here. German monsters to chew. And that's another thing. I'm staying on the elevator right now. Next 2 months, I go to the second years. The second dog is happy. It was like 4 a.m. We were spending your family weekends during Christmas at the Wisconsin Dells. So there was like 15 of us there. And, you know, the second eldest likes to pretend that he needs to throw up all the time. Tricks himself into throwing up so he can say he's sick. And he said, other little kids aren't allowed to get you sick. Only us boys. Says, I don't want to find out if some other little kids got you sick. Because that's the only time they want to share physical affection, is when they're sick. So now, when I spend time with them, and I have to give them a hug and kiss goodbye and go home, I wrap my arms around their neck and I kiss them on the cheek or the ear. They don't even face them, okay? I hug them around their back and put my arms around their chest and front, you know? Because every time I give them a hug and a kiss, and we're facing each other, they talk in my face and get me sick. So I like children, but if I get sick and they didn't get me sick, I cast. Do you have any nieces or nephews yet? Oh, okay. Yeah. So do you have a rule that you're not allowed to get sick from other little kids? Oh, that's nice.
You sleeping now? Mm-hmm. Girls have to sleep. Girl. I'm surprised y'all ain't getting snoring. Was I snoring? Why, I'm up here about to be like, look, I gotta go. I came 4 o'clock. It was 4:30. 4:30. Yeah, sometimes the shit I get myself into. When I put my I just need to work.
Yeah, I just thinking that's not. That's 55 minutes for mine.
And it's cold.
Yeah.
Yes. Scheduling stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I got 3.
Oh, you can call it.
Well, I took this job. This is my first year.
I like
Could
it.
all work, but by the time I found work, and then found additional daycare.
Well, that process will be-
Yeah.
camp I have, that style, it's ITMF. Just keep it on hand in case I get some infection. I worked to Afton State Park and I walked around all the trails. I did 17 miles that day.
You just said that house, you don't live in the house. That's the mistake.
That's all right. It's the only one I can. Because you know when you have camps and you kind of have to stay tight, it restricts the blood flow to the scalp. That's what I worry about. I'm at the age where hormones turn on. Yeah, I have to be careful with what I wear. And I know I can't wear a sub hat. One for gardening. No, I don't know why I wear that in the house. I don't have good gloves.
Yeah.
I don't have a face for it. Face is too big. You see that woman there? She's got a round face and a very rounded chin. And a long
Yeah.
She even has a hooked chin. It's not as bad. That's good.
You know?
Really nice.
Right.
And we're back. So, when you take these programs, there's two basic programs. There's a shorter program and a longer program. And the difference between the two programs is, so if you're doing the 90 or the 100 or the 120 hour program, we're doing everything with you to get you up to the road test. And a lot of you are taking that. And then if you're doing the 160 or 200 hour program, you're going to be doing stuff after the road test. So all four of our programs are the exact same thing, whether it's manual or automatic. That's the difference between the two of them. And it's short or long. So it's become our four programs. But everything up to the road test is the same. It doesn't matter whether you're in a short program or a long program. Where the difference comes in, those of you that are in the longer program, you're going to get the training with the larger trucks, with the 53-foot trailers, hooking, unhooking, 10-speed if you're in the manual transmission program. You're going to get that training after you get the test. And there's one person in this room that can attest to that. You don't want to take the test in a 53-foot trailer. That's why we do the test in the smaller truck. That's why we don't do all of our training like a lot of the other schools do in the big trucks. Then you go take the road test and you fail. It's that simple.
So you're not restricted from like a 28-foot?
No. Nope. There's no restriction on it. But if you're in the longer program, we definitely want to train you in the big trucks. Now, personally, I think there should be a restriction, but there isn't. It goes by weight. If it's over a certain weight, and it's a manual transmission, so we're going to use a 6-speed manual transmission with a 28-foot pup empty, and you can drive anywhere. Makes it easier than doing like you did. So what kind of transmission is automatic or manual?
Manual 13.
So you're a 13-speed with a 53-footer. It's going to be a lot easier with a 6-speed than a 28-footer for you to go past that test.
Even better with the flatbed.
Flatbeds sometimes get a little squirrely for backing. Personally, I like the flatbeds because you can see things better. But on the straight back, it's hard to see because you have no sides of your trailer, so people lose track of the flatbed. We don't use flatbeds for the test because the backing, it's harder to learn on a flatbed. Once you're good at it, you can do anything. But we don't use the flatbeds just because for new students it's really hard because they lose, because the flatbed will turn and you just notice it as much as you do the side of the trailer. So there's classroom instruction, backing, range practice and simulators, shifting simulators, and then driving on the road. Again, don't worry about any of these numbers. So there are some requirements. Part 380 of the federal rules say you have to do this, that, and that's all covered in our classroom stuff. Now the new rules are coming in and it's the same thing. We're already following the new rules when it comes to our evaluation process. So when the new rules come into play. Wisconsin's going to implement those new federal rules this summer, from what I heard. I don't know for sure, but they're implementing them a lot sooner than the feds are requiring it. Minnesota will wait till the last day and then probably ask for an extension, because they usually do that. That's what Minnesota does. Wisconsin's already starting to follow the rules. And they'll be 100% early because they do that. They're very transparent on how they do things when it comes to the rules, and they follow them. And that's why we like testing in Wisconsin. It's the states like Minnesota that don't like to follow the rules. We have problems. Simulators, again, these simulators are very useful and very helpful. As long as you go to those simulators with an open mind. If you don't go into that simulator with an open mind, if you go into the simulator with an attitude that it is a comes to cold. If you go into that simulator with the attitude that it's just a toy, it's just a video game, you're not going to get anything out of it because you're not going to try. If you go to that simulator with the right attitude, willing to do whatever it takes, even if it's boring and repetitive, then you'll be successful. As human beings, we're creatures of habit. If we repeat something over and over and over and over and over again, we get good at it, right? I mean, Tiger Woods plays golf. How many times do you think that man's hit a golf ball for practice? I can't count that. That man has probably hit a ball millions of times. But that's why he's good at it. How many times do you think a kicker for an NFL football team practices kicking the ball? I bet he kicks a lot in practice. That's how he gets good at it.
Except the Vikings kicker.
Well, he didn't practice enough. People that play sports, they practice. That's how they're good at it. You don't see people coming on a 2 years retirement and winning the Super Bowl the next year. It doesn't happen. Because I don't know that. I've seen a guy came on a 1 year retirement, almost making it to the Super Bowl, but he didn't win it. So we got to practice. We practice on the simulators. Range practice. Range practice before we had the simulators, 10 to 30 hours of 1 hour appointments, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now with the simulators, you spend between 5 and 10 hours on the simulators. People are spending 3 to 10 hours tops on the range. It's shortened the time in the truck by doing it on the simulators.
So they pay for the time.
Well, no, it's not that the simulators are actually more. They cost more because they cost. I could buy 5 trucks for the price of 5 backing trucks for the price of simulator. It's the time for you spending out there on the range. So it just gets you through it quicker by using the simulators. I had one guy go out there on the simulators, and he got evaluated last Monday after being a week on the simulators. After you spend a week on the simulators, then we're going to, most likely, if you pass on the simulators, then we're going to put you out in a truck, and we're going to evaluate you and then give you training in the truck. We're not just going to pass on the simulators and throw you to keep the truck. There you go. We're going to take you out with an instructor your first day. And he's going to evaluate what you learned off of the simulators and how well you're doing in the trucks. If you're struggling, we're going to get you with another instructor for a one-on-one to make sure that you're set, because we don't want you out there struggling. We're going to get you some help. We had one guy last week. He'd never backed a trailer before in his life. He spent 7 hours on the simulator. He was scheduled for 4 that week, but one day they had some people no show on a Friday. He just sat there all day long, and in between appointments, just grabbing every extra minute he could. Monday, he went out in the truck. He's not even scheduled for any backing practice on the range because he was able to do all 3 maneuvers perfectly after being on the simulators. Now, we're going to give him some more practice when we get closer to his road test just to make sure he's good at it. But he's so good now we're focusing on his pre-trip inspection because the simulators work. So you got to trust us on that. So if we say you're not ready to go on, there's no benefit for me to keep you here longer. It costs us money if I keep you here longer. If I give you more time on the simulator, that's less time I can give him. I don't want to keep you here any longer than I have to, but I want to keep you here as long as it takes for you to be good at it. So there's no benefit for me or for this business to keep you on it longer, other than it's going to make you good at it. Because financially, it costs us more money, but we're not going to let you leave it until you're good at it. Because we want you to pass, hopefully the first time. Now, we're prohibited by law from promising that you're going to get a license. But if you follow our lesson plan and do everything that we schedule for you, we're not going to charge you for retests. And we'll give you as many tests as it takes, with the exception of they put a cap on it. Minnesota has a 6-test cap. Wisconsin has a 5-test. If you fail 5 tests, then you have to wait a year before you can take a 6th test in Wisconsin. Minnesota, you fail 6 tests, and then they become supervisor tests, and we don't do supervisor tests in Minnesota. It's a pain in the butt. So we would give you as many tests as it takes, as long as you follow the rules, follow our guidelines. The state of Wisconsin limits you to 5 tests. We haven't gone there yet. We haven't had that happen yet, so I wouldn't worry about it. Because we're not going to let you go take the test unless you practice. Now, here's a group of people out here practicing pre-trip inspection. We're having that class tomorrow. We're not going to be doing this part of it tomorrow because of the cold temperatures. Everything was going to be done in the classroom tomorrow. Because they're talking tomorrow afternoon, it's going to start getting colder and colder and colder, and by tomorrow night, 26 below. We're going to be taking people out 1 at a time or 2 at a time to different trucks and practicing the in the truck part of it. But we're not going to have people standing outside doing this. But after next week, when it starts warming back up, I heard it's supposed to be 30s by the weekend again. On Tuesdays, you're going to be coming for pre-trip class to practice this. There's instructors and trucks out there, and that's how people do it. They take turns in the trucks, they ask the instructors questions, dress for the weather. Tomorrow, we're not dressing for the weather because I'm just not taking any chances. It's just too dang cold to let people be outside. We're going to be using all these smaller trucks initially, like I talked about. There's one of our Class B trucks. So we do all the smaller trucks with the short trailers before we go out in the larger trailers, for those of you that are doing the longer programs, before we go out the big trucks. And then focus on the shifting if you're in the manual transmission, and then both the automatic and the manual with the larger trailers, making right and left-hand turns. Because once you get used to the short trailer, it's a lot different pulling a 53-footer. I don't need you going on your first right-hand turn, knocking down a traffic light. And that's the part of the difference between the 2 programs. We go out and do a bunch more training. Because driving that's significantly different than driving the shorter trucks. Now, where's this stuff? There's some backing maneuvers you're going to have to do when you go take this test. And you have to be adequate for the state rules. Now, they're nitpicky, so you got to trust us. They want it done a certain way, and they want you straight. Just follow the rules and get it done. So they got all these different rules. We're not going to get too in-depth with that. They're going to get more thorough with that on Wednesday afternoon on the different backing portions of it. But there are some different ways to do it. Now, for you having experience, you've done with the 53-footer. I don't know how they taught you how to do the alley dock. This is how they would set people up in the alley dock with the larger trucks and trailers. Like I have this picture here. This is not the way you can do it on the test. You have to keep it at 90. Yeah, and that's what made it really difficult for you. You could have done it in the space they provided you if they would have let you start like this.
Yeah.
But they won't let you start like this. So they're setting you up to fail already.
So basically, yeah, once I got the trailer almost in there, then the front of the truck is right at the curb. But yeah, just not enough space.
Now, jobs. That's why you're here. You know, anybody here doing this as a hobby? Or a bucket list? Really, are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a farm, so.
Okay. We had a guy who was 80-some years old and was on his bucket list. He literally was doing this. He didn't care about the rules, doesn't care what anything. He never planned on driving a truck other than here. He just wanted to die with a CDL. I'm serious. He's 80-some years old and he had a list of things he wanted to do. And he spent a bunch of money here and got a CDL, passed the test. We got the CDL, and I don't know what happened with him since then, but he just had it on a bucket list. So it's possible, you know, I mean, it happens. That's why I asked this. So, but you're going to use it at the farm, so we are going to use it. But the rest of you are wanting to do this because you want to get a job, right? Now, the big thing you need to understand is when you're talking to these recruiters, what is the function of a recruiter? What's their job?
To get you in the doors with them.
Correct. Now, the recruiter for the company that you work at, Howard, you're one of the employees at Howard? Yes. Okay. So his recruiter, Amanda, she comes in here, and she's kind of an OBS person when it comes to how it works. Next week, there's going to be a guy from Schneider. His name is Brian, and his initials are BS. OBS. He doesn't sugarcoat it. They don't get as many people hired. Now, the trucking companies that we deal with, they don't sugarcoat things. That's the one thing we want to learn, is for them to be honest to you. But in the end, their job is to hire you, to try and hire you. They're all coming in here competing for you to go to them because there is a driver shortage. So while none of these companies are going to lie to you, the recruiters, they may omit things unless you ask. So even if you think you know where you want to go to work, I want you to listen to every single recruiter, because then somebody else might ask a question that you never thought of, but then it's like, wow, that makes a decision for you. So it's really, really important to hear what everybody else has to say. Now, all the recruiters we have coming here know what they're doing. We had a recruiter years ago come in for this one company, and she came in and she didn't know anything about the industry, and she was just this cute gal, and they sent her around trying to recruit people, and she had no clue. She was here one time, we kicked her out and let her come back. She had no clue what she was doing. We don't want recruiters like that. We want people that know their job so they can give you the correct information to help prepare you. Now, all these different drivers, you're going to start out with the same pay, but all these companies have different incentives to get you more money. Some of them have incentives for fuel, meaning if you keep your fuel mileage at a certain level, they'll pay you a bonus, meaning you have to drive a little slower to get that fuel mileage. You can actually make more money. The food service places, they actually pay you bonuses. See, those food service places, some of them pay you by the hour. Some of them don't. But the ones that pay you by the hour, they pay you a bonus by getting the delivery done quicker, less time at the stop. And then you make more money by doing that. So they're all different on how they do it. So these are things that you're going to be hearing as you're talking to these recruiters, and it's extremely, extremely important. What you don't want to do is 24 guys, people get hired and they go to a company, they make a 20 or a 59.7 or whatever is what they say they make. So you ask the recruiter, well, how much do you make? Well, you make about 60 grand a year. The question you want to ask them, what does a first-year student coming out of school make, average? Not what do all your drivers average. What does a first-time student coming out of school? It's going to be a different number. Why?
Because you have no experience.
So you're going to be slower. You're going to make mistakes. It's going to take you longer to do things. So that's the way it's going to be. So you're not going to make $60,000 your first year. You might make 45. Your second year, you might make 70. But your first year, you might make a little less. And that's the thing you need to understand. Can you make $50,000 your first year? Sure. That's very doable. But you got to work hard and work a lot of hours to do that. But just remember, you're not going to make as much money through training. Obviously, you're not making any money while you're here. So the recruiters aren't lying to you when they say numbers, but they're not telling you everything. Our drivers average $60,000 a year. No. But that means some people are making more and some people are making less. So when they say our drivers are averaging, that means you're probably not going to make $60,000 your first year. So ask them how much money do your new drivers average today when you get a straight up answer. If they don't know the answer, they'll look it up. Another question you want to ask, they'll say, you're going to make this much money per mile, right? What do new drivers average a week? Now, what do experienced drivers average a week? And they got numbers. Some of these recruiters got breakdowns. Well, for the first 3 months, they're averaging this. 6 months, they're averaging this. A year, they're averaging this. And then after that, then you're falling in line with that. Just understand you're learning. You're a student. You're going to be a student for 6 months, even after leaving this school. You're still going to learn things. You're going to be a student the rest of your life. You're going to always learn something new. But for the first 6 months, it's critical. The first year, it's really important that whatever company you go to, you try to stick with it for a year. If you start jumping job to job to job to job to job to job, nobody's going to want to hire you. It's just a fact of life. Nobody's going to want to hire you if you go job to job. You work 3 months at one job, and you work 2 months at another job. You've never got any experience because you're just going through training. Every company you work to is going to give you some training period if you have experience. So try to pick a company early on that you want to work for and you plan to stay there at least a year. That way, or longer, if you stay longer, then they start, after a year, they start really paying you more money. You keep starting over, you're just going to keep starting over. You're never going to see the big ones. That's why you want to find a company that's got a long-term plan. The reason you want to stay there makes it make money. Now, our job here is to keep you safe. We're going to help you with that. We're going to keep you safe. That's our main priority here, is to keep you safe. That's why tomorrow I'm not letting anybody go outside. Tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, stand outside, practice, and preach. If I'm not going to let you freeze to death doing that. So our main job here is to keep you safe. Our second goal is not only to get you licensed, we want you to empower you to continue operating the truck safe. We only want to help people that want to be safe drivers out there. I got friends, I got family, I got people out there on the road. I want you to be a safe driver. I got people out there driving cars that I like, and I don't need you running into them. So safety is a major thing, so we want to instill safety right from the get-go. There's a video out there, I don't have it close by, but a truck driving down the road. He's going down an icy road. He loses control. No, he doesn't lose control. Another car loses control and runs into him. And we show this video. I can't remember which class he shows it on. It's going to be in one of the videos that you see when you're doing your online stuff. And then the question is asked, is there anything that that truck driver could have done to prevent it? So he's driving down the road in his lane. Somebody crosses a double yellow line, crosses another lane, runs head on into him. Somebody picked that up on a dash cam. Is there anything that truck driver could have done? It was an icy road. Is there anything that truck driver could have done to prevent that other guy from hitting him? No. Yes. Could have stayed home. And I'm serious. We have not taken one truck out on the road yet today. We've canceled all of our driving lessons. We wait until the roads are plowed. We wait until chemicals are down. If the roads are that bad, don't go out on them. If the roads are icy, don't drive. You delay yourself by a couple hours so they get some chemicals down, that's worth it to me. I'll take a shot on my paycheck at the end of the week because I lost a few hours of driving. I'm not going out in bad weather like that. Now, driving a car in a snowstorm to get here is one thing, but we have not taken one of our trucks out of our parking lot. In Hudson, we had a lesson going on for some people that are taking tests tomorrow. I just got word on the last break that they just got done plowing in Hudson. They're just going out and starting. So people that are scheduled at 7 o'clock this morning are just starting at 11 o'clock today. We wouldn't have to do all this stuff. I wanted all those roads clear and plowed. Entrance and exit ramp to the freeway clear. So yes, in a situation like that, we want you to be safe and we want to try and teach you to be safe, and that's the one thing we're going to do, is not let you go out and drive in weather like that. Hopefully, you're not going to be one of those drivers that doesn't care about others and just do it because they want to get it done. Think about it. When a road's clear, Highway 494 here, the speed limit 60 miles an hour. I drive 60 to 65 miles an hour every day getting here. Today, how fast do you think I was going? 35, 40 tops. So what are you gaining by driving in that bad weather? You're paid by the mile. I'd rather be paid nothing and be safe than be paid half pay and then take a chance of getting into an accident. If you get into an accident, first thing you got to do is do a drug test. So there's an inconvenience because somebody else ran into you. You know, you're not working when your truck is broke, so you're not getting a paycheck even if they ran into you. It's not worth it. So in really bad weather, it's worth it to stop. So we want to hopefully instill safety into you when you leave here. Goal 3, though, is also to help you pass your CDL road test. We're doing more and more evaluations, and that way our pass rate's going up and up and up and up. That's the way we do things. If you go out and do an evaluation with one of our instructors, a few of our instructors are former examiners. If you do an evaluation with one of our instructors and he says you didn't pass, the thing you should be doing is coming back in to see me. All right, Pat, what do we need to do so I do pass? Not, I want a different instructor. You're not going to get a different instructor when it comes to this. If you can't pass with him, you're not going to pass with the examiner. So if you fail with him, he's not trying to fail you to be mean to you. They're failing you because it's not necessarily a fail. A fail is when you go take it with the examiner. With us, it's just something you learn. Okay, here's what we need to work on. It's that simple. Don't get argumentative with them. Just go, what can I do to make it better? That's the way you want to approach this. If you don't do well, what do you need to do to make it better? There are many a times, though, we were out there, and you are a good, safe driver, but you're not. That doesn't mean you can pass the test. So passing the test and being safe is two separate things. Every single one of you, I'm hoping, is a safe driver, but it still doesn't mean you're ready to pass the test. You have to do it their way. You have to be safe, but you have to be safe their way. Follow their rules in order to pass this test. So, one thing that really screws people up in Wisconsin is there's a rule in Wisconsin. Most other states have this rule. Minnesota doesn't. So slow traffic needs to stay where in Wisconsin? On the right lane. Did you know Wisconsin, driving in the interstate, even in your car, if you're in the left lane and you're not passing somebody and the right lane's wide open, you're just driving the left lane, you can get a ticket. You're never going to get that in Minnesota. Just about every other state has that law except for Minnesota. In Wisconsin, if you drive in the left lane and you're not passing somebody, you will, and you're taking the test, you fail the test. But in Minnesota, you can do that all day long. The left lanes are for passing in every state except Minnesota. I took a road trip out to Seattle a few years back. And it was a nice road trip. On my way home, coming down the highway, about 70 miles from Fargo, and all of a sudden there's this guy with a Minnesota plate in the left lane doing 50 miles an hour and 70 mile an hour zone. I'm like, yep, I could tell I'm getting close to Minnesota. You do that in Wisconsin, you fail the test, and you can get a ticket for it. The state of Washington, you can get tickets for it. There's quite a few other states that have those rules. So there's some differences to how you drive in the real world or drive in Minnesota versus driving in Wisconsin. We got to make sure you're prepared for that. Yes?
If you're going the speed limit in the left lane in Wisconsin or Washington, and people are still passing you up on the right and going...
No, if they're passing you on the right, you're the one that's going to get the ticket. You should be
even though I'm going the speed limit.
Yeah, you shouldn't be in the left lane.
But they're speeding.
You should be in the right lane. You only get in the left lane to pay. You should be in the right lane, and they should be passing you in the left lane.
Okay.
You can't be driving in the left lane. So when you get out of this state, you drive. If you're one of those people in the left lane, you're going to get in trouble in other states. And you also, if you ever wonder why you're in the left lane and you're doing that, and you got truck drivers riding your bumper, it's because every other state that's against the law except Minnesota. So you're pissing a lot of people off by doing that. Because Minnesota doesn't give it tickets, doesn't make it right. You shouldn't be in the left lane, especially on the interstate. So obviously, get your permits, one of our goals. We're going to talk more about that. Or you've already got to go up there and talk to the guys at the counter about getting that. Passing the inspection if you're doing manual shifting properly. Now, who here, again, was doing manual transmission? If shifting becomes an issue, and I already mentioned it could take you a couple weeks longer doing it in the manual, if shifting becomes a problem, and you got experience, so I'm not worried about it. We've already taken the 13 speed. I think you didn't handle our 6 speed. Okay. But if shifting becomes a problem, we have one guy here. He got sent here from a company that's paying for some students to be here. And 2 of their students have already completed the program, passed their test, completed the whole thing, got past 10 speed, everything graduated and gone. One guy, he's struggling with shifting. He's never shifted before. So it's taking him long. His company's requiring him to do a manual because they only have manual transmissions. So he has no choice. He's stuck here. They're going to work with him for as long as it takes, but he's stuck here. If you are having problems, I'm going to ask you this question: where do you want to go to work? Because it might be if you're having a hard time shifting, it might be beneficial for you to switch to automatic. Because spending 3 months here trying to learn a manual transmission, you're going to make no money. Spending 2 more weeks, you start struggling, get done a lot quicker in the automatic, and you go get a job. Who wants a paycheck? I do. You want a paycheck? So if you are struggling with the manual transmission, it's beneficial for you to do it in the automatic. But if you are going to do it in the manual transmission, we'll work with you as long as it takes, but you're going to spend a lot of time on the simulators until you're good at it. We're not going to let you go out and beat up our trucks. It's that simple. Backing up a trailer. The simulators are huge with helping that. It's cut down our backing range time. And again, operating the truck safely is really, really important for us.
So how much it cost me, like, if it come back in like a couple of months, like 6 months, where?
For what?
For the manual transmission.
Well, we let people do the automatic, and if they want to come back and redo it in the manual, we'll let them do that if they go back and get experience. But part of that is how many times did it take you? Like, for instance, I told you in the state of Wisconsin, we had one guy that wanted to do that. He did it in automatic. He passed on his 5th test. Now he wants to do the manual. They won't test him because it took him 5 tests. So it doesn't matter how many times. If you pass in the one, then you don't start over. So we're still limited at that 5 tests. So if you pay the money and then you don't pass, there's nothing I can do about it. So if it takes you 5 tests to pass in an automatic, you can't do the manual. If you pass your first time, yeah, go get some experience, come back, and then try the manual. Great.
So how much can it cost that?
The difference between the 2 prices, 2 classes, because I don't know the money. I don't deal with that. The guys at the front counter do. So whatever the cost of the one program is, you just pay the difference and upgrade into that one, even after the fact. So. Certificate. Now, we talked about that earlier. You go take this class. Again, a certificate from this place means absolutely nothing if you don't have a license. Now, there are lots of jobs out there where the certificate's actually worth something. If you go to college to become a lawyer, right? You go through all the classes, and you spend all the time going through all the different classes, you go to law school, and you graduate from that law school. There are plenty of jobs out there without taking the bar exam and becoming an actual licensed attorney, practicing attorney. There are plenty of jobs you can get out there. You can go work for a law firm doing, investigating things and research. You can become, there's plenty of jobs out there you can get without actually being an attorney that a law degree would help you with. There are lots of degrees out there. The trucking industry, the certificate from this place will get you nothing unless you have a license. So going in the manual transmission and struggling is not going to help you get a job, because even when you go and get the job, they're going to road test you again, and they're going to send you with a trainer. If you're struggling with them, they're going to kick you out of the truck. They're going to have no patience for you. You're gone. So if you're struggling here, think about it. You're going to keep struggling. It's not going to get easier, and you're going to have all these other people that are going to be judging you. So it's best to switch to the automatic and pass the test and get the license and go get the job. So the automatic is the way to go if you're struggling. If you know how to drive a manual, in your case, you've already got the experience. I wouldn't ever recommend you do it automatic because you got experience. Certain companies are funding people to be here. They will only pay for the automatic. The reason being is there are more jobs with the automatic than there is the manual. For instance, we had a gal come through this program about 1.5 years ago. She paid for the 200-hour professional manual transmission program. It took her a long time to get through it because she was working a job while she was doing it. She paid for herself. She was mid-20s, and she was determined. She struggled with the shifting, but she got it. She went through this whole program, all said and done, went out to find a job. She was very upset. She could have saved her time, effort, and money. She couldn't even find a job in the manual transmission. None of the companies had it that she wanted to go to work for. They didn't have any available at the time. So when you're talking to these recruiters, they're all going to say, it's preferable if you don't have the restriction, but we'll take you anyway. You don't need it. So, however, it's preferable that you have the manual transmission, but they will still hire you if you have an automatic only.
They're switching to automatic for fuel mileage.
Multiple reasons. One, the fuel mileage, because they're shifting perfectly. That's the one reason. But with the driver shortage and student drivers, and they want to get them out on the road quicker, and they're having less accidents, it's safer. Insurance companies are giving them breaks if they have automatics over the manuals. Think about this. Would you want to drive a 13 speed through rush hour traffic?
It doesn't, honestly, it doesn't bother me.
All day.
I enjoy shifting, honestly.
I've done it. I've had 13
But,
speeds.
you know, I haven't did it enough. Like, I mean, I've drove manual cars, and both of my cars are manual. But driving semi,
It's a
I've
pain
been
in
back
the
and
butt
forth
in
to
traffic.
Boston a few times.
Yeah, but you're driving back and forth, but you're not sitting there. If you're a local guy and you're sitting in nonstop traffic all day, I'd want to automatic. I don't want it. Driving on the highway, you're in your top gear, full speed, you don't have to shift. Over the road, it's not a big deal, but you're still going to go into cities. And if you get stuck doing city work, most people nowadays want home time. Well, to get home time, you got to do shorter runs to get you more home time, which means more in the city traffic. I want an automatic for that. I don't want to be dropping here and then 10 miles down the road, making another drop, and 10 miles down the road, making another drop, sitting in traffic lights, stopping more traffic in a manual transmission. My knee gets sore. I don't want to do that. So in the end, you want the certificate and you want to get a job. That's why you're all here, except the guy in the back that's doing it for a hobby. Y'all want to get a job. So the license is the important part of this whole equation, is passing the test. You got to trust us. We know what's best to get you to pass the test. We don't know what's best when it comes to the job for you, because that's up to you to find the company that works for you, because they all have different things to offer. Now, we always hear meet the minimum federal motor carrier safety regulation standards for minimum training. We also meet the CVTA standards for training. Questions? Please ask questions. Questions are important.
So when you're taking your road test,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing an air brake check, and you pump it down to the...
Ask this question tomorrow when he's doing the class about air brake check. I just don't want to get off track on this class, but tomorrow half the day is spent on that part. Like your question, whatever it is, half the class is spelled about the air brake check, because that's one of the most common reasons why people fail brake check, is where you're going with your question. Not that I mean to not answer it, just tomorrow's class is spent the whole day on brake check, and a big chunk of it's on air brake check. So save that for tomorrow. Now, we're required by the state rules to give you a certificate. It's going to be a transcript. If you don't complete the program and pass the test, we are required to give you a certificate for whatever you've done here, up to what you've paid for, obviously. If for some reason you have a family emergency, let's say you're coming to school here, you're halfway through the program, and you got to leave. We honor the training for up to 2 years from your start date, from today. Okay? Some of you, again, are being funded for different organizations. Even though we honor it, the YWCA won't let you take 2 years to go through it. They'll kick you out. Different organizations. VA, for you're the post 9/11, you have to be here 8 weeks, 20 hours a week minimum, 160 hours, even though you're doing a 200-hour program. You have to do that in order to not have them come after you for the money. Sure. If you take longer than 8 weeks, they don't care. I cannot graduate you early. Even if you're done in 5 and you're stuck here 8 weeks, 20 hours a week. It's pissing. You don't fight the feds. I'm surprised they're able to fund you for this when they're shut down.
Yeah, I don't know how all that works.
Yeah, we're probably not going to see a paycheck for a while. You know. So I think it's because so much of it's automatic.
Well, I probably won't either, because they give you the living expense too. But
You're not going to see that for a while, probably.
yeah,
Drug screens, they're not indefinite. So if you take training and you go inactive, you would have to redo a new drug screen and pay for it. So if you do disappear and take time off of school, and you have to come back, we are going to do a new drug test. So you can't take a year off and then come back without taking a drug test. So you have to redo it.
So you need a physical to do this training?
No, don't need a physical. Who's here is paid for? So year one, it's paid for it. You're in the full program. YWC is the so they're doing the physical, I think, through the Y. You already did it, so you guys don't have to worry about it. You're in the 160 or 200 hour one of those two. Which program are you in?
I was gonna do the
120. The doctor comes here, you can pay him yourself. It's not part of the program. It's only part of the program if you do 160 or $200.
Right, you need it to get your CDL.
Yes, you're going to need to do the training in Wisconsin eventually. The doctor that comes here on Mondays, there's information up at the counter on how to set yourself up for an appointment for that. You can do any money, or you can do other locations to give you a discount. You can charge like $45. Most places charge $100. So
How long is one good?
2 years, as long as you're healthy. It could be less if you have any health issues.
Yeah, because I got one to my employer.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah,
there's
you,
a defined.
you got the card on you?
Sure. No, it's in my car.
A lot of people have them already.
Wonder.
So yeah, they're good for 2 years. Generally, if you're healthy, if you have high blood pressure on certain medications, they knock it down to a year. If you have other health concerns, they can even knock it down to 6 months where you have to recheck.
Doesn't it go by age too?
No.
It doesn't.
So one of the schools, mid to late 60s, and he still gets a 2-year one because he's healthy enough. Goes by health, not age. Me and I'm borderline be able to get the 2 years because I'm way overweight. And if I don't lose this weight, by my next physical, I'll only get a year one because my blood pressure's high because of my weight. I got other health things going on. So if I don't cut my weight down, I'm now maybe 1 year one next time. He told me that. He said, you're one number away from a 1 year health card. Cracked me in the back of the head and said, lose some weight. So, we don't need the physical to do the training, but if we want to take you to Wisconsin, we do. So you got to get your health card before we can take you over to take the test over there. So make sure you get it. So hopefully when we leave here, when you leave here, you have all the tools that you need to be successful in this career. Now, one of the things that gets frustrating with people is when they're doing the backing, for instance. Our methodology for training, we don't sit there next to you and tell you turn left, turn right, turn left, turn right, turn left, turn right. We don't do that. What we do is we show you the rules and how to do it, demonstrate it for it, and let you make lots of mistakes. Why do we do it that way? You're going to learn. People learn by making mistakes. Part of what you're learning is what not to do. You're also learning what the trailer is capable of doing. If I sit there and tell you what to do, I got a video somewhere, and I can't find it. I'm looking for it for Friday. Bill, the owner of the school, is backing up a trailer blindfolded. He had one of our instructors outside of the truck telling him, turn left, stop, turn right, go, stop, turn left, turn a little more left, turn a little more left, okay, go, turn right. Talked him through it. He did a 90-degree alley back blindfolded perfectly with no pull-ups because he followed those directions. Anybody can do this if I tell you what to do. Now, just because I'm able to talk you through it doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it on your own. I need you to learn how to do it on your own. So instead, what we're going to do is tell you what you need to do, demonstrate it for you, and then let you make lots of mistakes. Then you're going to get good at it. Because you need to be able to maneuver this trailer anywhere at any time, not just the way you need to do it for the test. So a lot of times people get cranky with us because they don't feel that we're helping them enough. I've had people on the simulator for 2 or 3 weeks, and they're going on and on. Well, you're not helping enough. It's your fault. And no, it's not. You're being a baby. If you don't like it, quit. And I'll tell you that. We're not going to hold your hand here, people. We're going to give you lots of practice. We're going to help give you guidance, and we're going to give you some help. But we're not going to stand there and go turn left, turn right, turn left, turn right. All of a sudden, a light bulb's going to come on, and you're like, ah, I got it. And then you'll be the best backer out there. But we're not going to hold your hand. This is not the industry for that. Because when you get out in the real world, you're never going to have anybody standing there once you pull out of that shop, once you pull out of your terminal.
So you mean no one's going to back the truck up for you?
No. Well, there are places where you can pay somebody. So we want you to be safe. We want you to be good. We want you to have good observation. So if this is feeling like it's not for you, you got a lot to think about. If you're doing the 10-speed stuff, we teach the 10-speed program. We teach double clutching for that. If you're in the $100 or $200 professional program, and I got people in your case, do you float or do you clutch? Do you double clutch? You float? Yeah. So I got people that have experience come through the program. You want our certificate, you're going to learn how to double clutch. The industry standard shows double clutching. If you go to a company that does have 10 speeds, they give you a road test. They want you to know how to double clutch. Even though if they don't require it, they still want you to know it. Doesn't make sense. I don't know why. So we teach double clutching. It's silly, but that's what we have to do. Yep. Hours of service. We're going to talk quite a bit over the next 3 days about hours of service here and there, and then we're going to give you a bunch of stuff on the online course about hours of service. Hours of service is the big thing that'll get you in trouble if you don't do that correctly. That's important. And of course, $160 or $200 program for the completion certificate. You're going to need that for most of the carriers out there. Now, some of the carriers are not going to require that much in the certificate, and they're going to hire you. Again, some of these companies are desperate, and they're willing to put anybody behind the truck. They just want a body. These recruiters are taking anybody. They don't care if you're successful as long as you make it a few months. Some of these recruiters are paid by how many people they hire. Most of the recruiters that we deal with are not paid that way. They're paid by your success. They don't get their pay until after you've been there a certain amount of time. Some of the companies you go to work for, their trainers are only paid if you stay. If you quit through the training, they don't get extra paid for their training. So these companies, a lot of them are designed to help you succeed at this. And the same thing with us. We hopefully want you to succeed. So if you have any questions when it comes to these trucking companies, feel free to ask. When it comes to the trucking companies themselves, Josh and Matt will get you the correct person to talk to at the trucking company. Don't just call up Swift, for instance, and talk to whoever answers the phone. You want to talk to the recruiter that recruits out of this school because they know the specifics about our school, and they're going to help you. If you want to go to Halver, we want you talking to Amanda. If you're going to go to Schneider, we want you talking to Brian. So the different companies have different, if it's DLI, the gal's name is Carmen. We want you talking to certain people at this company, and that's the only person because they know how our program works. So they are able to help you better to get going with things within the company. You call Swift, they're the largest trucking company in the country, and they're going to tell you what you want to hear to get you hired. That's the way some of the recruiters are. The one that we deal with, his name is Brandon Cragen, he works out of Wisconsin. He doesn't even work at the Minnesota terminal, but that's the recruiter we use because he'll be point blank straight honest with you about it. That's what we want out of recruiters. So if you have questions about these companies, talk to Matt and Josh up front, and they'll give you a list with the certain recruiters and their names and phone numbers and who you want to contact. Don't just look at what some guy said on the internet. You want to get the correct information. All right? All right, we're going to take a break. At noon, we got a recruiter coming in. I can't remember which one it is. Somebody's, because it wasn't on the board. The reason it was taken off the board is, what's that? Yep, Transport America, I think. I don't think it's Transport America. Either way, there's somebody coming in at noon. And then the doctor's going to be here doing DOT physicals. If you want to do that, you can see if he's got room. You can ask him at the front counter. They can get online and see if he's got any open spots you want to register for. Those of you got it. Otherwise, you can take a break at noon. Then at 2:30, after he's done doing the physicals in here, we're going to get going with class in here again. We're going to be talking about hours of service at 2:30. So again, at noon, the recruiter's coming in. They're bringing pizza, I believe. They're bringing pizza, right? They're doing.
Yeah, they're already here. They're doing a phone presentation.
Oh, it's a phone one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I'm just going to tell them to take a break right now, and then you get that set up. How's that sound? So you got a little break. Come on back here at noon. So who was the recruiter?
Huh? That's Transport America.
Transport America.